Chapter 1573. Hearing someone call out his name in surprise, Xiaohua smiled and looked at the group of disciples coming out of the side chamber. Among the many male disciples, there were 20 or so female disciples. They all had flower-like faces and were wearing colorful clothes. Not only did they attract Xiaohua's gaze, the gazes of the 100 or so young male disciples also fell on them from time to time. In front of the 20 or so female disciples, there were 2 female cultivators who were about the same height. One had a round face, round and smooth like a pearl, and the other had an oval face, looking elegant. The one who called out to Xiaohua was the round and smooth Xue Xue. Hearing Xue Xue call out Xiaohua's name, the gazes of the 100 or so disciples all fell on Xiaohua. The eyes of the cold and elegant female cultivator beside Xue Xue also flashed with a trace of astonishment. Seeing everyone's gazes fall on him, Xiaohua felt slightly uncomfortable. He couldn't help but raise his hand to touch his nose, and said with a bitter smile, "Xue Xue, long time no see, how are you?" Seeing Xiaohua's somewhat lazy movements, Xue Xue couldn't help but feel her heart beat faster. Her face was actually a bit hot, and her voice was much softer than before. She replied, I'm very good, how about you?" Seeing Xue Xue like this, the hearts of the surrounding male disciples became bleak. In an instant, their gazes were like flying swords, piercing Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua looked around and sneered in his heart. He took a few steps forward and said with a smile, "Look at I's spirited appearance, how could I not be good?" Not only did Xue Xue's face smile, but the surrounding dozen or so female disciples also covered their mouths and giggled. Junior sister Xue, is this the Xiaohua you often mention?" The cold and elegant female cultivator beside her also had a rare smile on her face. She moved closer to Xue Xue's ear and whispered, "It's him." Xue Xue's voice was like a mosquito. "This Xiaohua is really amazing. Previously you said he was only in the middle of the 10th level of qi refining. Look, it's only been a little over a year, and he's actually at the peak of the 11th level of qi refining." The female cultivator's voice was indifferent, but traces of competitiveness could be heard. "Ah. Is that so?" As soon as Xue Xue saw Xiaohua, her heart was filled with joy. How could she pay attention to his cultivation level? When she heard what her senior sister said, she promptly raised her head. Wasn't Xiaohua at the peak of the 11th layer of qi refining? Junior brother Xiao. Right at this moment, another voice sounded from behind the crowd. When Xiaohua looked up, he saw Wang Yunxiao, Min Gu, Yuan Bo, and the others. Xiaohua looks at the dozen or so 10th and 11th layer qi refining disciples clustered behind these 3 people. He says with a smile, "Hello, 3 senior martial brothers. Long time no see. Both of you are in the 12th layer of qi refining. I'm truly envious." Wang Yunxiao took a few steps forward, cupped his fists and said, "Same here. We've all advanced from the middle of the 11th layer to the middle of the 12th layer, and junior martial brother Xiao has also advanced from the middle of the 10th layer to the peak of the 11th layer. Junior martial brother Xiao, you've made great progress." Xiaohua cupped his fists in return and said, that's incomparable. I still don't know when I'll be able to step into the 12th layer." Min Gu and Yuan Bo glanced at Xiaohua, then shifted their gazes to Xue Xue and the other female cultivator. Seeing the 2 whispering to each other and occasionally glancing at Xiaohua, their eyes were filled with displeasure. They glanced at each other again, then smiled and said, "Congratulations, junior martial brother Xiao. You've finally broken free from the hardships of being a loose cultivator." Congratulations to you too." Xiaohua didn't understand why they would mention loose cultivators like this, so he only replied with a smile. Everyone came out of the side hall. Some people walked past Xiaohua, but there were also quite a few people who stopped and looked at Xiaohua and the others with interest. But when they heard that Xiaohua was a loose cultivator, their eyes immediately revealed a kind of disdain. They raised their pauses again and each of them dispersed. Apart from a few younger disciples behind Shui Shui, the rest of the female disciples also left one after another. The cold and elegant female cultivator rolled her eyes a few times, then smiled and said, Shui Shui, since you've met an old friend, you might as well wait here for a moment. I will return to Sunlei Palace first. Don't, Shui Shui was a bit anxious. She grabbed the female cultivator's sleeve and said, Senior Martial Sister Shui, don't be anxious. This disciple will leave after saying a few words to him. When Wang Yunxiao saw this, his gaze slightly swept over Min Gu and Yuan Bo. He cupped his fists and said to Xiao Hua, Junior Martial Brother Xiao, you and I live very close to each other. Although we haven't seen each other for a long time, if you return to fledgling Thunder Peak, you'd better send me a sound transmission talisman. Your old friend is still here, so I won't take up any more of your time. With that said, he nodded and walked away. Min Gu and Yuan Bo didn't seem to want to leave. However, when they saw that Wang Yunxiao had left, followed by a few male disciples, they also cupped their fists towards Xiao Hua with extreme helplessness. Then, they nodded towards Shui Shui and the others and left Sunlei Palace. Before leaving, they viciously looked back. But at this time, Xiao Hua didn't see it, because Shui Shui pulled the cold and elegant female disciple in front of Xiao Hua and said with a smile, Xiao Hua, this is my senior martial sister. Her name is Sun Shu. Greetings, senior martial sister Shui. Xiao Hua had a smile on his face. He bowed and said, this disciple has seen Senior Sun Ming's elegant demeanor at Spring Thunder Palace. I really envy you all. Hee hee. How about Senior Martial Brother Xiao also enter our Sunlei Palace? A few female disciples behind Shui Shui, who looked exceptionally intelligent, said with a smile. Go, go, you all wait outside the palace. Shui Shui waved her hand, looking like a senior martial sister. Hee hee, yes, we will obey Senior Martial Sister Shui's orders. Those female disciples smiled like flowers and ran out of Sunlei Palace. Xiao Hua, I heard you went to the Eastern Rich Herb Garden. Shui Shui blinked her large eyes and looked at Xiao Hua with great concern. That place is so far away from Sunlei Palace and also not close to Zhenlei Palace. Why did you choose that place? The Eastern Rich Herb Garden? Sun Shu was also stunned. Her beautiful eyes looked at Xiao Hua and said very strangely, wasn't that herb garden abandoned long ago? Even if you want to look after the spirit herbs, you don't have to go to the Eastern Ridge. Xiao Hua scratched his head and said, I don't know how to craft talismans, nor do I know how to refine pills. I also don't want to do other chores, so I naturally chose the easy job of looking after them. Moreover, I was born as a loose cultivator. If others look down on me, I might as well stay far away from them and save myself the trouble. Junior Martial Brother Xiao says it so easily. I'm afraid you have ulterior motives, right? Sun Shu said with a smile, won't you know once you see fellow Taoist Zhao's cultivation increase? Oh. Ha! Xiao Hua laughed and didn't explain. He looked at the side hall behind Shui Shui and said curiously, this is my Zhenlei Palace's Yan Lei Palace. You. Why did Sunlei Palace's disciples come to listen to a technique imparting disciples lecture? Hee hee. Shui Shui covered her mouth and laughed. Senior Martial Brother Xiao, have you never heard of a technique imparting disciples lecture? On the first day of every month, disciples of each Thunder Palace can go to other Thunder Palaces to listen to lectures. Senior Martial Sister Sun had a sudden impulse, so we came to Zhenlei Palace. I didn't expect. What and what? Shui Shui. Sun Shu retorted from the side. Wasn't it your idea to come to Zhenlei Palace? What does it have to do with I? And you bumped into that Yuan Bo as soon as you arrived and even asked him about something in a low voice. So you were asking about this? Sun Shu continued. Senior Martial Sister. Shui Shui said coquettishly with a burning face. At this time, at the entrance of Yan Lei Palace, several Sun Lei Palace's disciples who just went out poked their heads out and shouted, Senior Martial Sister Shui, the palace sent a message telling us to go back earlier. Shui Shui heard and her face turned cold. She said to Xiaohua, "The palace is urging me, so I won't say much to you. If you have nothing to do, send me a message too. Last time, you actually didn't tell me you were in Dongling. I was afraid of delaying your cultivation." Xiaohua touched his nose and laughed. "Just remember it in the future." "Okay." Shui Shui laughed and pulled Sun Shu's hand to leave quickly. She still turned her head halfway. "Don't forget." I know. Go quickly." Xiaohua grinned and waved his hand a few times. After leaving Yanlei Palace, Shui Shui and the others flew into the air. Sun Shu suddenly asked in a low voice, "Shui Shui, this Xiaohua seems to be very mysterious." "Mysterious?" Shui Shui was slightly stunned and said very strangely, "I've known him for so long, but I didn't feel it." You're in this mountain, so deep in the clouds you don't know." Sun Shu laughed. "Look at him, he doesn't even know that the disciples of the Thunder Palace are taught by each other. It's like this is the first time he came to Yanlei Palace and he's never listened to the teachings of the senior brothers before. Think about it, he's a loose cultivator, but now he actually used more than a year to cultivate from the middle of the 10th level to the peak of the 11th level. Although he can't be considered outstanding in my Thunder Palace, it's still impressive. If he's not mysterious, who is?" Shui Shui shook her head. "Maybe his master taught him more." "Who's Xiaohua's master?" Sun Shu shook his head. "You also know that before we build foundation, our masters rarely give us pointers, and he's a loose cultivator, so his master's pointers are even less. Xiaohua's master's name is Helplessness." Shui Shui said. "Even if it's not his master's pointers, maybe it's his senior brother's." "Helplessness?" Sun Shu was stunned, then the corners of his mouth rose. He said with a smile, "Then I know who Xiaohua's senior brother is." "Who?" Shui Shui asked curiously. "Is his senior brother very famous?" Then the two people's topic of conversation changed from Xiaohua to Xiang Yang's story. Back to Xiaohua, after watching Shui Shui and the others leave, he took a step forward and walked towards a closed door on his left. When he arrived in front of the door, Xiaohua tilted his head to listen. It was very quiet inside, without any sound. So Xiaohua stretched out his hand and gently pushed. The door quietly opened. Suddenly, a clear voice entered Xiaohua's ears. Through the half-closed door, Xiaohua saw a rather large side hall with several hundred disciples. These disciples were all sitting in a circle on the ground. In front of the center, a foundation building cultivator was sitting cross-legged on a praying mat. He was stretching out a hand and slowly forming hand seals. Listening to the cultivator's voice, it seemed like he was chanting some kind of spell. Xiaohua thought for a moment, then quietly walked in. He closed the door behind him and walked behind the outermost disciple. He also sat cross-legged and listened to the cultivator's lecture in front of him. After listening for a while, Xiaohua could tell that the cultivator was talking about the minor confinement art. It was a spell that 10th and 11th layer qi refining cultivators could use. After talking for a while, the cultivator stopped and called a disciple to demonstrate. Unfortunately, that disciple didn't seem to be proficient. He waved his hands several times but still couldn't cast the minor confinement art. Seeing bean-sized beads of sweat dripping from his forehead, the foundation building senior brother sneered and said, "Sit down. In the future, when you listen to lectures, you have to pay attention." When that disciple sat down with a flushed face, the foundation building cultivator unexpectedly looked at Xiaohua. "Oh no." Xiaohua was slightly startled. Sure enough, the foundation building senior brother pointed at him and said, "What's your name? Stand up." Xiaohua smiled bitterly in his heart. He stood up and bowed, saying, "Disciple Xiaohua greets senior. Are you a disciple of my Thunderclap Palace?" "Yes." "Then that's strange. How come I have never seen you before? Moreover, today, you actually came in right after I was about to finish my lecture. You don't know I's temper. That disciple is on duty at the Eastern Ridge's medicinal garden. It's really too far from my Thunderclap Palace, so disciple asked for the steward's order to cultivate on my own in the Eastern Ridge. Xiaohua said very apologetically, this is disciple's first time listening to a lecture. I really don't understand senior's rules. And that cultivator obviously knew how far the Eastern Ridge was. He waved his hand and said, since you came, then you have to understand. Did you understand what I said just now? Disciple understands. Good, you can cast it and see. Hearing this, Xiaohua waved his hand and deliberately made the wrong hand seal. That minor confinement art naturally couldn't be used. That cultivator shook his head slightly and gave a few pointers. Xiaohua listened. It was precisely the part he made the wrong hand seal. After correcting it, he cast the minor confinement art. And, not much. Your comprehension is quite high. That foundation establishment cultivator nodded and said, admittedly, you're on duty at the Eastern Ridge, but you also have to prioritize cultivation. If you have free time, it's better to come back and listen to lectures more often. Yes, disciple understands. Xiaohua said respectfully. Alright, that's all for today. 10 days later, I will lecture on palm lightning again. Finished speaking, that cultivator stood up. All the disciples opened up a path and bowed, saying, respectfully see senior off. Forget it. That cultivator flicked his sleeves and walked out of the side chamber with quick steps. Xiaohua was right behind everyone, so he was naturally the first to come out of the side chamber. Seeing that cultivator walking towards the inner hall, he immediately ran 2 steps forward and said in a low voice, Senior, disciple has something to ask. That cultivator turned his head to look at Xiaohua and said with a smile, if there's anything you don't understand about the technique I taught today, I can naturally answer. Previous ones? Forgive I for not answering. I dare not. Disciple just wants to ask senior where our Thunderclap Palace's technique imparting pavilion is. Xiaohua said respectfully. Technique imparting pavilion? What are you going there for? That cultivator looked at Xiaohua and said curiously, you haven't reached the peak of the 12th layer of the aura refining realm, so it's still not the time to look for a technique, right? Hehe, disciple just wants to look up some ancient books. Senior, please show me the way. Xiaohua said with a smile. And, follow I. That cultivator turned around and said. Chapter 1574. Xiaohua followed the foundation building cultivator into the inner hall. After walking for the time it took to smoke a cigarette, several divine senses swept past Xiaohua's body, but they didn't stop. After turning into a corridor, there was a small projector wall. On the projector wall, there was a huge picture. On the picture was an antique pavilion. The door of the pavilion was half closed, and there was a plaque on the door with the words, Technique Imparting Pavilion, written on it. Seeing the cultivator stop in front of the picture, Xiaohua was a bit dazed. He secretly said, could it be, this is the Technique Transmission Pavilion? Sure enough, he heard the cultivator point his hand and say, take out your identity tablet and throw it into the picture. Yes, disciple understands. Xiaohua answered and took out the tablet. After hesitating for a moment, he threw the tablet into the picture. As soon as the tablet touched the picture on the screen wall, the picture emitted a trace of lightning that struck the tablet. Strangely enough, a trace of lightning also flashed from the tablet and collided with the lightning that struck it. The 2 streaks of lightning disappeared at the same time, and the tablet sank into the picture. After a moment, the whole picture emitted a tricolored brilliance. The brilliance flashed, and the picture disappeared. What appeared in front of Xiaohua was a courtyard door that was the same size as the picture. Through the courtyard door, not far ahead, there was a pavilion that was exactly the same as the one in the picture just now standing in the center of the courtyard. Just as Xiaohua was staring, a middle-stage foundation building cultivator came out from the courtyard door, holding Xiao Hua's tablet in his hand. He looked at Xiao Hua and asked, "Your Xiao Hua disciple is?" Xiao Hua didn't dare to be negligent. "Why did you come to the Technique Transmission Pavilion?" Xiao Hua didn't answer. He turned around and said to the foundation building cultivator who brought him here, "Thank you for leading the way, senior." "Hee, you're welcome." The cultivator laughed, flicked his big sleeve, and turned around to leave. When the cultivator walked far away, Xiao Hua clapped his hand and took out the sect master's tablet, handing it over. "Disciple has something to do in the Technique Transmission Pavilion. Senior, please check the tablet." "Oh." The foundation building cultivator stared blankly at first, but when he saw the sect master command tablet, he was slightly startled. After repeatedly examining it, he handed it back to Xiao Hua along with the identity tablet. He said, "According to the sect master command tablet, you can look it up in the Technique Inheritance Pavilion, but you can't take it out." "Yes, disciple understands." Xiao Hua received the sect master token and replied. Come in." That cultivator turned around and entered the courtyard. Xiao Hua followed him in. When Xiao Hua's figure turned around the courtyard door, a tricolored brilliance flashed, and that picture appeared again. The entire screen wall returned to its previous appearance. The real Inheritance Technique Pavilion was different from the picture. It was surrounded by Foundation Establishment disciples. The Foundation Establishment cultivator didn't lead Xiao Hua to the Inheritance Technique Pavilion. Instead, he led him to a small house next to the Inheritance Technique Pavilion. Reporting to Martial Uncle, "There's an aura refining disciple with the sect master's order who wants to come to the Technique Imparting Pavilion to look at the ancient records." The Foundation Establishment cultivator walked to the entrance of the room and reported respectfully. A very valiant divine sense was emitted from the small house. It circled around Xiao Hua's body a few times, and a lazy voice sounded. "Has the sect master's order been examined?" Reporting to Martial Uncle, "It has been examined. It was indeed issued by the sect master." "And, then let him in." "It's just that, this disciple's sect master's order is somewhat special. It seems the sect master has decreed that he can enter the Technique Inheritance Pavilions of the 8 Great Lightning Palaces." That cultivator said cautiously. "Oh, this disciple is called Xiao Hua, right?" "Yes, Martial Uncle understands. He's indeed Xiao Hua." "And, let him in." The sect master has long passed down a decree. Cultivation methods and magic arts that are a level higher than his can all be looked at. It's just that he can't take it out of the Technique Inheritance Pavilion. A trace of extraordinary splendor flashed through that cultivator's eyes. He cupped his hands and said, "Yes, disciple understands." Soon after, he said in a low voice, "Come with this old man." Xiao Hua nodded, then rushed into the small house and bowed. "Thank you, senior." It was quiet inside the small house, as if no one had heard anything. Seeing that there was no movement, Xiao Hua also turned around and followed that cultivator into the pavilion. They walked all the way to the door, then the cultivator pointed with his hand and said, "Take your identity tablet and go in yourself." Then, he turned around and walked to a place not far from the pavilion. There was a praying mat placed on the ground there. He sat down cross-legged and no longer paid attention to Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua didn't dare to be negligent. He respectfully bowed and thanked the cultivator's back. Only then did he take out his identity tablet and step into the pavilion. The pavilion's door wasn't high. It was carved out of bronze-colored wood. It didn't look too different from the study of a mortal family. Xiao Hua raised his eyes and looked. He very easily passed through that door. There was actually no restriction at all. Strange. Xiao Hua was greatly surprised. The restriction outside is so peculiar. Inside, not waiting for him to give birth to this thought, suddenly, from inside the pavilion, a large clump of lightning net flashing with lightning whistled and rushed towards Xiao Hua. Xiaohua didn't even see the situation inside the pavilion clearly before he was wrapped in the lightning net. Motherfucker, Xiaohua's back instantly broke out in cold sweat. Fortunately, he also firmly believed that this lightning net would not harm him in any way. Although his transcendence energy was attracted by the lightning net and seemed to want to leave his body, he still forcibly suppressed it. Sure enough, just when he wasn't affected by the lightning net, the identity tablet in his hand emitted extremely faint lightning. It was different from when he entered the painting just now. Although the lightning was extremely small and faint, once it came into contact with the lightning net was like an illusion. It only flashed for a moment and then disappeared. After the lightning net disappeared, Xiaohua finally saw everything inside the pavilion clearly. However, Xiaohua's expression suddenly became dumbfounded. This pavilion wasn't large. It was only several tens of feet long. On the pavilion's surrounding walls, there were paintings that were more than half the height of a person hanging. The center of the pavilion wasn't like what Xiaohua imagined. There were bookshelves, and there were also no jade slips placed on top of the bookshelves. There were only fist-sized balls of light. Counting them carefully, there were as many as 9 balls of light. Each ball of light was rotating in a fixed place, and the 9 balls of light seemed to form a very mysterious magic formation. This. Xiaohua somewhat scratched his head. The cultivation method, where is it? Even though Xiaohua walked through the entire pavilion and looked at the seemingly existing second floor, there was no ladder that could lead to it. Just when Xiaohua turned around and wanted to go out and ask, one of the paintings on the wall beside Xiaohua suddenly emitted a faint lightning. That lightning swayed and cast on the floor of the pavilion. From that painting, a cultivator whose cultivation couldn't be seen walked out. Xiaohua was startled. He quickly retreated a few steps and respectfully looked at the cultivator. He saw that the cultivator's figure was originally nothingness, but then it gradually solidified. When the light and shadow turned into a real person, the lightning that was projected on the ground immediately returned to the painting. That cultivator slightly tilted his head and glanced at Xiaohua. He walked to the side of a ball of light and used his hand to point. That ball of light suddenly enlarged. The cultivator patted his hand and took out a jade slip. Then, he threw it into the ball of light. Then, with another point, that ball of light shrank and returned to its original position. Martial ancestor, Xiaohua saw that the cultivator was about to leave and quickly called out, "Disciple Xiaohua wants to ask for guidance from martial ancestor." "Oh, what do you want?" The cultivator turned his head and asked very indifferently. "This is the first time disciple has come here to look up the ancient records. I don't know how to look it up. Martial ancestor, please instruct me." Xiaohua respectfully asked. Zhenzheng and the others didn't explain to you how to use it?" The cultivator frowned and said very unhappily. "This, disciple didn't ask." Xiaohua saw that the cultivator was unhappy and quickly smiled apologetically. "I'm afraid martial uncle and the others thought disciple knew." "Hey, you're thinking for others." That cultivator snorted from his nose and pointed with his hand. "Within these few halos is the place where my technique imparting pavilion stores ancient records. You only need to throw your identity tablet into it and the halos will naturally lead you in." After saying that, the cultivator didn't stay and left the technique imparting pavilion. "Oh, so it's like that." Xiaohua cupped his hands and sent that cultivator off. Looking at the 9 balls of light around him, he didn't know which one was which. Originally, he wanted to go out and ask, but on second thought, there were only 9. Wouldn't it be fine to try them one by one? Thinking this, Xiaohua took out his identity tablet and tried to throw it into the ball of light next to him. Unexpectedly, after the identity tablet was thrown in, that ball of light spun rapidly and slowly emitted a layer of orange-red brilliance. The brilliance didn't last long and Xiaohua's identity tablet was thrown out again. "Hee, I'm afraid I won't be able to do good." Xiaohua understood that his identity tablet should be like what that senior he'd never met said. It could only enter the halos of foundation building and aura refining cultivation techniques. Sure enough, after Xiaohua walked towards the door and tried to throw his identity tablet in, that ball of light spun and emitted an emerald green brilliance. Soon after, from that ball of light, a flight of stairs floated in the air and extended to Xiaohua's feet. Wonderful! Xiaohua almost clapped his hands. Soon after, he stepped onto the stairs. Sure enough, the stairs automatically shrank and Xiaohua's figure shrunk even more. As the stairs unexpectedly flew into the ball of light and disappeared, the entire pavilion immediately returned to its previous tranquility. Not long after, the ball of light that Xiaohua entered suddenly started to spin again. Soon after, it expanded and another flight of stairs extended from the ball of light. A middle-stage foundation building cultivator walked down the stairs with a jade slip in his hand. As the stairs moved, a small inch-long person gradually grew bigger. By the time it landed on the ground, it already had the appearance of an ordinary person. Immediately after, that flight of stairs didn't shrink and Xiaohua walked out from the ball of light. He walked to the cultivator's side and bowed with a smile. "Martial uncle, thank you for your guidance." That cultivator didn't say much and clapped his hands. He took out an identity tablet and threw it towards the wall. It was a blank picture scroll. Just like before, the picture scroll projected a brilliance of lightning. That cultivator took a step forward and the brilliance suddenly disappeared. The cultivator flew into the picture scroll and disappeared. Looking at the picture scroll again, it actually gradually revealed a splash ink painting. The mountain in the painting looked very majestic. Chapter 1575. Oh, so that's how it is. Xiaohua nodded. He looked around and saw that only 30% of the paintings on the wall had different pictures. Presumably, they were all occupied by people. And this painting has its own space. Inside it is a quiet room. Those who take the cultivation methods of the technique imparting pavilion are not allowed to take them out of the pavilion, so they have to comprehend them in this quiet room. Xiaohua suddenly understood. He then looked at the ball of light that just came out, and a trace of a bitter smile appeared on his face. Although the ball of light looks small from the outside, the space inside is extremely large. There are many jade slips. The jade slips are divided into talisman crafting, alchemy, cultivation methods, incantations, and so on. They are all placed in different areas. At the same time, there are several foundation establishment disciples in the space also looking through ancient books. Xiaohua is currently at the 11th layer of qi refining, so he doesn't dare to reveal too much of his perception. Seeing that the inside is full of jade slips, he just casually looked through them and didn't use his perception to probe. However, looking at the few jade slips in the cultivation method area, and then looking at the talisman crafting, alchemy, incantations, and so on, Xiaohua understood. Even in the Imperial Thunder sect, cultivation methods are extremely scarce. Standing in the pavilion, Xiaohua pondered for a moment, then threw the token into the ball of light next to the foundation establishment light ball. Sure enough, this ball of light also released a flight of stairs. Needless to say, this should be the qi refining light ball. Xiaohua stepped onto the flight of stairs and entered the ball of light. After the time it takes to eat a meal, he came out of the ball of light. At this time, Xiaohua held two small booklets in his hands, and a trace of a smile on his face. Soon after, Xiaohua, like the foundation establishment cultivator, also threw the token into a blank scroll and entered the quiet room. For 10 days in a row, Xiaohua stayed in the technique imparting pavilion. He constantly took out cultivation methods from the balls of light, went to the quiet room to study them, and then changed to take out other cultivation methods. Alas, these cultivation methods, only 50% of them are complete. The rest are mostly incomplete cultivation methods collected from other places in the country of Xi. And within these 50% cultivation methods, I feel that half of them are similar, only adjusted according to different constitutions. If I really cultivate it, it might not be as fast as I's heavenly laws embodiment technique. After Xiao Hua placed a cultivation technique back into the ball of light, he thought to himself, it's true that I can comprehend it in the quiet room, but the spiritual qi of heaven and earth inside is insufficient, so it's very difficult to make any breakthroughs. Right now, I don't need to look at cultivation methods anymore. I should look at spells and the like first. That's the right thing to do. After watching for several more days, Xiaohua finally came out from the Technique Inheritance Pavilion. Seeing that the foundation building disciples on duty all around paid no attention to him, he could only cup his hands and walk away. After returning to the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden, Xiaohua opened the magic array and checked his cave and alchemy room. There were no traces of anything. Then, he relaxed and went into seclusion to cultivate. Unknowingly, another 10 days had passed. At noon, Xiaohua had just placed an absorption pill into his mouth. That trace of medicinal power had just been refined and transformed into true qi. Xiaohua only felt that the true qi within his meridians had begun to slightly fluctuate. Soon after, as if it was boiling, the true qi began to rapidly circulate along the meridians within his body. Wonderful! Xiaohua understood that he was about to break through the barrier of the 11th layer of the qi refining realm. Thus, he focused his mind and completely refined the medicinal power of the absorption pill. Then, he urged his true qi to break through the barrier. Just like other qi refining cultivators, breaking through the barrier was far from difficult for Xiaohua. He only felt his body lighten as his true qi broke through the new meridians. It was like mercury flowing down the ground, incomparably smooth. But right at this moment, a strange change occurred. The magic power around Xiaohua's body suddenly began to violently tremble, emitting a strange fluctuation. That fluctuation became increasingly intense. This fluctuation was like a kind of flame, instantly igniting all the true qi within his meridians. That true qi was formed from heart fire. Heart fire flowed along the meridians without stop, very similar to when Xiaohua refined the fire essence flame crystal. However, every time this heart fire moved, Xiaohua's heart would dry up by a bit. In his heart, there was a kind of longing for a sweet rain. At the same time, every time the heart fire moved, there was a tendency for it to break free from the shackles of the meridians. However, this heart fire was firmly blocked by the meridians. This is the opportunity to stimulate divine sense. It's just as eldest senior brother said. But, why did this heart fire ignite on its own? I haven't activated the secret technique yet, have I? Xiaohua's spirit was blessed, and there was a very familiar feeling. Then, with a wave of his hand, he took out the rainbow epiphyllum that had been growing for who knows how long. In his heart, he silently chanted the secret technique to stimulate divine sense. With a wave of his hand, heart fire came out from Xiaohua's 5 fingers. The thick rainbow epiphyllum and the several zhang long rainbow were roasted by this heart fire, immediately turning into a large ball of 7-colored liquid. It slightly rotated in Xiaohua's hand, looking very gorgeous. Isn't it a bit big? Xiaohua was somewhat dumbfounded. Of course, other people's rainbow epiphyllum were at most 100 years old. After melting, it was only the size of a soybean. How could it compare to his big one? I don't care. Xiaohua was the most greedy. He knew that this rainbow epiphyllum was very old, and he was unwilling to use only a little. Then, he clenched his teeth and waved his hand. That large ball of 7-colored liquid flew towards Xiaohua's head. Speaking of which, it was also strange. The 7-colored liquid that was originally larger than Xiaohua's head, under the Imperial Thunder sect's secret technique, actually gradually shrank. By the time it touched Xiaohua's forehead, it had already been compressed to the size of a thumb. It directly shot into the long-disappeared swastika character on Xiaohua's forehead. With a teng sound, the 7-colored liquid entering Xiaohua's body was like adding oil to the fire. The heart fire in Xiaohua's meridians suddenly flourished, enveloping Xiaohua's entire meridians within the heart fire. Although Xiaohua had the experience of refining the fire essence flame crystal, he was still somewhat bewildered. He didn't dare to be negligent and activated the secret technique, sending the seven-colored liquid to his Naiwan palace. However, a strange thing happened. The seven-colored liquid didn't condense into a small dot like the secret technique said. Instead, it condensed into a rather large sphere. In his perception, it was even larger than Xiaohua's head. According to the guidance of the secret technique, Xiaohua should have urged this seven-colored sphere to slowly rotate, absorbing the heart fire in his meridians into this sphere. He should have used the heart fire to forge this seven-colored sphere, giving birth to the first strand of divine sense. However, Xiaohua's seven-colored sphere was truly too large. The secret technique simply couldn't move it. At this time, Xiaohua's arrow was already knocked on the bow. He had no choice but to brace himself and activate the secret technique, attracting the heart fire to forge the sphere. Because the sphere didn't rotate, the heart fire couldn't be easily attracted over. The heart fire that Xiaohua spent a Herculean effort to get was simply a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. It was of no use at all. It couldn't even refine a single bit of the seven-colored sphere. This is bad. I'm too greedy. Xiaohua was somewhat regretful. It would have been better to use that jade Kirin fruit. However, at this time, the Naiwan palace was occupied by that enormous seven-colored sphere. How could it still contain the jade Qilin fruit? Besides, who knew if there would be a problem if the rainbow epiphyllum and the jade Qilin fruit both melted at the same time? What should I do? Xiaohua was practically sweating like rain. Suddenly, on Xiaohua's forehead, where the seven-colored liquid had entered, the swastika character flashed out due to the effect of the rainbow epiphyllum. It reflected the seven-colored liquid and emitted a faint Buddhist light. That's right, don't I also know the exquisite leaf sutra? Xiaohua suddenly thought. It seemed that this situation had an extremely similar feeling to the first step of refining relics in the exquisite leaf sutra. Thus, Xiaohua put aside the Imperial Thunder sect's secret technique that stimulated divine sense and recalled the contents of the Exquisite Leaf Sutra. Then, according to the records in the Heart Sutra, he began to temper himself. As Xiaohua tempered the seven-colored liquid in the Naiwan palace, the swastika character on his forehead became more and more obvious, and the Buddhist light also became more and more intense. However, this Buddhist light didn't shoot far, and only enveloped Xiaohua. In his meridians, the raging heart fire didn't extinguish because Xiaohua gave up on the secret technique, nor did it go out of control because the seven-colored liquid didn't absorb it. Instead, it slowly circulated gently in Xiaohua's meridians like true qi. At the same time, the reverse light in the space stopped rotating, and a tranquil and serene atmosphere filled the entire space. Little Silver and Little Yellow both fell into a deep sleep. At this time, the strange starlight also shot in and was refined one by the heart fire. After who knew how much time had passed, following the tempering of the Exquisite Leaf Sutra, the seven-colored sphere gradually changed shape. A Buddha with one hand pointing to the sky and the other pointing to the ground with an expression of supreme benevolence gradually revealed a vague outline. It was just that this outline was very rough, and most of it was nothingness. So much so that after a slight flash, it only left behind a faint shadow. Of course, the strangest thing was that the Naiwan palace where the Buddha's relic was located suddenly bulged out, as if the Buddha had an enormous belly. The Buddha's relic was also slowly rotating along with the spinning swastika character on Xiaohua's forehead. The Buddha's relic's empty, illusory face seemed to overlook everything in the world as it rotated. Following Xiaohua's sigh, his Buddha's relic stopped rotating, and faced the same direction as Xiaohua. The swastika character on Xiaohua's forehead also flashed a few times, and the entire Buddha's light converged, then disappeared without a trace. Although Xiaohua sighed, he didn't open his eyes. At this time, his perception, "Oh, that's not right, according to the Exquisite Leaf Sutra, his perception should be Buddhist awareness. This Buddhist awareness was born from the Buddha's relic, and was who knew how many times more tyrannical than before. Everything within several hundred feet of him was within his Buddhist awareness. Damn it! This shouldn't be divine sense, right? After seeing Buddhist awareness, Xiaohua wasn't happy at all. Instead, he was a little worried. He was a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect, not a disciple of some Buddhist sect. Without divine sense, how was he going to explain this to his master and grandmaster? How was he going to cultivate after he reached foundation establishment? He clearly didn't have divine sense, so how was he going to control magic artifacts, and even magic treasures in the future? Greed is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Xiaohua warned himself again. Chapter 1576. Right, didn't Master give me a jade qilin fruit? Should I give it a try? Xiaohua thought and took out the jade qilin fruit. But looking at the ugly jade qilin fruit, Xiaohua hesitated. What if this jade qilin fruit conflicts with the Buddha's sarira? Will there be another problem? My true qi. Xiaohua noticed the heart fire in his meridians at this time. Because according to the secret method of the Imperial Thunder sect, the heart fire should be completely absorbed by the rainbow epiphyllum, and new true qi would be produced. Now that Xiaohua didn't use the heart fire, the new true qi naturally wouldn't be produced. Damn it! Xiaohua almost jumped. He wanted to stop and send a sound-transmitting talisman to ask eldest senior brother Xiang Yang or Master, but he had no way to explain the rainbow epiphyllum, and also no way to explain the Buddha's sarira. Will the heart fire extinguish on its own? It seems, according to eldest senior brother's teachings, without the secret method of the Imperial Thunder sect, true qi and magic power would only boil for a while, then calm down. Just as Xiaohua thought about it, he immediately denied it. If it could be extinguished, it would have been extinguished long ago. He had tempered the Buddha's sarira for so long, but it didn't extinguish. How could it be extinguished now? Maybe I should try the secret method of the Imperial Thunder sect. And try the jade qilin fruit. Xiaohua hesitated for the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, then made up his mind. He once again activated the secret method, using the heart fire to melt the jade qilin fruit. Sure enough, after the jade qilin fruit melted, it became a tricolored sphere the size of a soybean. But where should he put this tricolored liquid? When Xiaohua tried to send the liquid into his Naiwen palace to no avail, he faced a new problem. Fortunately, he only hesitated for a moment before he found an excellent position. Between the eyebrows of the Buddha's sarira, which was also where the Naiwen palace was located. After placing the tricolored liquid of the jade qilin fruit, Xiaohua still closed his eyes and activated the secret method to rotate the tricolored liquid. Sure enough, following the rotation of the tricolored liquid, the heart fire in his meridians was all sucked around the tricolored liquid. The heart fire surrounded the liquid, fiercely burning it. After an unknown period of time, the three-colored liquid was burned dry with a boom, and the heart flame was extinguished at the same time. Between the Buddha sarira's eyebrows, a faintly discernible, tiny dot that couldn't be any smaller suddenly appeared, and a pure divine thought emerged spontaneously. Green blood for elixir core. God's guidance. For some reason, these two names appeared in Xiaohua's mind. At the same time, he recalled two extremely familiar cultivation technique chants. This time, Xiaohua wasn't surprised, nor did he open his eyes. Instead, he calmed his heart and recalled the chant of God's guidance in his mind over and over again, hoping to recall something else. Unfortunately, the chant flowed through his mind like a clear stream of water, pure and without any other impurities. After waiting for a long time, Xiaohua slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were somewhat perplexed as he pondered, that nameless chant is clearly the same as the exquisite leaf scripture, but it is a bit superficial. I'm afraid it was also lost by that Buddhist sect. And this God's guidance is actually a cultivation technique with 9 levels. It seems, it is somewhat related to my Imperial Thunder sect's secret technique. If I were to compare the secret technique with the nameless chant, then this God's guidance would be the exquisite leaf scripture. Moreover, when I was trying to cultivate God's guidance, I faintly felt a kind of reaction from the location of the Naiwan Palace. It's just that, this reaction is based on the feeling of the cultivation technique, so it can't be taken seriously. But the problem is, every human must have a Naiwan Palace. Where does a cultivator's divine thought come from if they don't have a Naiwan Palace? Since I can't feel the Naiwan Palace, then, the Naiwan Palace must have an abnormality. And this abnormality isn't ordinary, it's serious. Even that Empress, with her incredible divine ability, couldn't sense it, so how can I deal with it now? After a few thoughts, Xiaohua dismissed the idea of using God's guidance to forcefully sense the Naiwan Palace. He already knew that in this cultivation world, there were countless people with remarkable abilities. His own background was unknown, so he was afraid that he had some background. Of course, if he didn't have absolute confidence, he would rather suffer some grievances than alert the enemy and put himself in a disadvantageous situation in advance. The newly born divine thought was extremely weak. It was far inferior to Xiaohua's previous perception, not to mention the Buddhist sense that had undergone a metamorphosis. Xiaohua tried to control his divine thought to familiarize himself with his new divine thought. He also used the records of the exquisite leaf scripture to control his Buddhist sense. Comparing the two, Xiaohua was somewhat confused. These two things seemed to have the same use, but he felt that there were some differences in the nature of the two. It was like looking at a mountain. Divine thought, you could see the mountain, but you could also see mountains after mountains. On the other hand, Buddhist sense could see the mountain, but it could also see the mountain within the mountain. Good. I'm afraid I'll have to ask Master about this kind of profound matter. But immediately after, Xiaohua thought to himself, since Ken Mingwei and the others have been investigating this matter for several decades, Master. I'm afraid he might not know. At this moment, the command medallion in Xiaohua's bosom suddenly changed. Xiaohua impatiently took out the command medallion, flew into the air, and opened the formation. He saw that outside the formation, Zhenming was also impatient. As soon as he saw Xiaohua, he berated, Xiaohua, since you know that today is the day to turn in the flame dawn grass, why didn't you open the formation? Could it be that you've already forgotten the lesson from 2 years ago? What? Xiaohua was stunned. He didn't expect that he had only gone into seclusion once to break through the barrier of the 12th layer of the refinement realm and refine the Buddha's Saraira. All of a sudden, he had spent a year's time. Xiaohua rolled his eyes and smiled apologetically. Senior Marshal Brother Zhen, disciple returned late yesterday. This morning, disciple went to the mountain to pick the flame dawn grass. I was afraid of delaying Senior Marshal Brother's matter, so, no need to say any more, quickly bring the flame dawn grass. Zhenming stretched out his hand and shouted. Oh, Senior Marshal Brother, please wait a moment. Disciple still has some left. I'll go pick it right away. Xiaohua cupped his hands and quickly flew back. Fortunately, Zhenming only frowned slightly and didn't follow him. He stood in the air and looked around in boredom. Not long after, Xiaohua turned back and handed over the storage pouch. Zhenming opened it and looked, then handed an empty storage pouch to Xiaohua and asked, what about the other spirit herbs? Did they continue to grow? Xiaohua knew that he wouldn't come in, so he smiled and said, most of them can't be grown, but some have just sprouted. I knew it was impossible. Zhenming didn't say anything else and flew back to the Thunder Hall. Looking at Zhenming's departing figure, Xiaohua faintly smiled. He took out the command medallion and closed the Eastern Ridges formation. Then, he circulated his magic power and used the lightning escape technique to rush towards the myriad Thunder Valley. Far away in the Xuanyan mountain of the Xuanyan school, there was a towering mountain peak. This mountain peak was different from the other mountains around it. There was no forest or grass on the mountain, only a layer of ice and craggy rocks. At the bottom of the mountain, there was a huge cave. From the top of the cave, there were many ice pillars as thick as a human arm hanging down, blocking the cave. At this time, in front of the cave, Jiecheong Fairy was leading several Foundation Establishment stage disciples to land on the smooth ground. Open the seal. Jiecheong Fairy's face had a trace of joy, but also more confusion as she whispered. Yes, disciple understands. Two older cultivators took 2 steps forward. Each of them held a crystal-clear jade disc in their hands. When they circulated their magic power, the jade disc emitted a sky-blue brilliance. Then, from the jade disc, half of an ice sparrow flew out. Each of them flapped a wing, which looked very strange. The 2 halves of the ice sparrow merged together in mid-air, forming a complete ice sparrow. Then, the 2 disciples looked at each other, circulated their magic power at the same time, pointed their hands, and shouted, "Go!" The ice sparrow slammed into the icicles in front of the cave. The entire cave flashed with the same sky-blue brilliance and was annihilated. Instantly, the numerous icicles disappeared, revealing the dark cave entrance. Jiecheong Fairy didn't seem to hesitate. She flew into the cave entrance and flew down the mountain. The cave was winding and extremely deep. After flying for the time it took for an incense stick to burn, they arrived at a place that looked like an ice palace. This was also a rather large space. Everything inside was carved out of ice. There were birds and beasts, famous flowers and strange plants, and there were even some things of the mortal world that were sparkling and translucent. Jiecheong Fairy flew to the center of the ice palace. In front of an exquisite house, she patted her hand and took out a token. She threw it at the door of the house. When the token touched the cold door, it immediately flashed a brilliance and sank into the door. In a moment, the whole house strangely melted, revealing a round hole on the ground. Jiecheong Fairy was not in a hurry to enter the cave. Instead, she released her divine sense and looked around before flying into the cave. After the cave, there was another deep cave that was bitingly cold. The 4 walls of this deep cave were inlaid with a lot of moonstones. But in the cold, the moonstones' brilliance was dim, as if they couldn't go very far. When Jiecheong Fairy and a group of Foundation Establishment stage cultivators behind her entered this deep cave, they immediately looked at the 5 Qi refining stage cultivators who were sitting cross-legged around the cave. Clap clap. Jiecheong Fairy patted her hand and the 5 cultivators opened their eyes at the same time. Their faces were full of joy as they looked at Jiecheong Fairy. You all wait here. This time's cultivation ends here. Yes, disciple understands. We will follow martial ancestors' order. The 5 cultivators stood up at the same time. One of them was Xiao Mao. Go, each of you take one and follow me back to Golden Goose Mountain. Jiecheong Fairy looked around and scolded. Yes, disciple understands. 5 of the Foundation Establishment stage cultivators stepped forward and each of them grabbed a disciple and followed Jiecheong Fairy out of the deep cave, not knowing how far away from Xuanyan Mountain, in a mountain forest surrounded by white clouds, countless birds and beasts were leisurely flying. Dang! A bell rang. Not only did it scare away the birds and beasts, but it also shook the clouds away. Gradually, in the depths of the mountain forest, at the foot of the mountain, in front of a magnificent palace, a white-clothed cultivator was quickly entering the palace. This person was the Foundation Establishment stage. Li Zongbao. Chapter 1577. Li Zongbao was still as graceful as ever. He didn't appear arrogant or domineering just because he had reached the Foundation Establishment stage at such a young age. Even when the young disciples who were at the 7th or 8th level of Qi refining came out of the palace and respectfully saluted him, he only smiled and nodded. This kind of humility was like the warmth of the spring breeze, warming people's hearts. Li Zongbao entered the palace and saw that it was empty. In the middle of the palace, there was an incense burner that was as tall as 2 people. Incense was floating from the top. A skinny cultivator with pure white hair was sitting cross-legged in front of the incense burner. He seemed to be meditating with his head lowered. This cultivator was Li Zongbao's master, Heng Zhao. Li Zongbao didn't dare to make a sound. He took 2 light steps and stood inside the palace with his hands behind his back. After a while, a slightly old voice came from the incense burner. Zongbao, you have reached the foundation establishment stage for several years. Have you stabilized your realm? In front of the incense burner, Heng Zhao, who had his back facing Li Zongbao, had turned around. His pair of bright eyes stared at Li Zongbao and asked kindly. Hearing this, Li Zongbao took a few steps forward and came in front of Heng. He bowed and said with a smile, "Good, Master knows that this disciple's realm has already stabilized in the 2nd year. In these few years, I have been steadily improving, and there has been no stagnation." "Well, that's good. The foundation establishment stage is just a small beginning for you. The core formation stage is your real test. The foundation establishment stage is not like the qi refining stage. All the details must be cultivated. Do not be careless. Disciple understands. Thank you, Master, for your teachings," Li Zongbao said respectfully. Heng Zhao smiled again. "A few years ago in the country of Xi, although you revealed the soul accumulation talisman a little early and your qi refining was not complete, I have asked you to slow down your cultivation for the past few years. I presume you have more or less made up for your previous mistakes." "Yes, Master." "Good. In the 100 Zhang Peak of the kingdom of Xi, you killed a devil from the devil realm," Heng Ming said while clapping his hands. But Li Zongbao frowned and said carefully, "Master, that blood shadow devil was not killed by me." "Ah, Zongbao." Heng Zhu shook his head slightly. "I know you're magnanimous and disdain to steal credit from others. But that little rogue cultivator is only at the 2nd level of qi refining. If you hadn't restrained the demon's blood shadow, how could he have destroyed it? At the end of the day, he was just taking advantage of the magic tool. He was lucky that you didn't snatch it from him. What credit can he claim?" Li Zongbao blinked and remained silent. "What's more, you represented the Lian kingdom and the Utopia faction at the 100 Feet Peak. You killed the blood shadow of the devil realm, and the Utopia faction deserved the credit. After you came back to report to me, I reported this matter to the sect leader. This is a great contribution of the Utopia faction after the battle in the Imperial Demon Valley. The sect leader has already reported this matter to the Celestial Alliance. But I don't know why the Celestial Alliance hasn't rewarded us yet." Looking at his master's white hair and the ardent hope on his face, Li Zongbao sighed in his heart and nodded. This disciple understands. What Master said is true. Ha, that's right. This is related to the reputation of the Utopia faction. How can it be taken lightly? Although Heng Ming said this, he still shook his head. He glanced outside the hall and said, "During the trip to the country of Xi, you investigated the matter of Ming Yang. Your martial uncle Cho Hui is very grateful and has praised you in front of me several times." "That's nothing. Ming Yang joined the Utopia faction with great difficulty. He just made some progress in his cultivation and then died. I'm afraid Uncle Cho is very sad, right?" "It's not sad at all." Heng Ming sighed. He just wanted to help him on the road of cultivation because of his bloodline. Since he couldn't do it, he naturally had to give up. Now that you've found out the cause of this matter, your Uncle Master won't be worried about you anymore. That's why he's grateful to you. In fact, when he led Ming Yang into the Utopia faction, I had advised him against it. Mortals have their pleasures and cultivation families have their means. Our cultivation faction is very different from theirs. If we lead a disciple with an unstable foundation into the cultivation faction, it's tantamount to pulling a seedling to help it grow. It's not good for Ming Yang and your Uncle Cho Hui." Hearing this, Li Zongbao's mouth twitched slightly. There was a trace of helplessness in his eyes. He whispered, "Actually, this disciple understands Uncle Cho Hui's Humph, Hang Ming snorted coldly. You understand. But you can't do what he did. Now he's caught in his own trap. He has worries in his heart and his cultivation hasn't improved for a long time. Previously, his cultivation was only slightly lower than mine. But now, he's only at the initial stage of the gold core realm. Looking at the situation, although the family's matter has come to an end, he's now cut off his worries and his cultivation should be able to improve. But, the most suitable time has passed. I'm afraid he won't be able to conceive a baby in this life. A trace of despair appeared in Li Zongbao's eyes again. He seemed to be in pain, but this pain was quickly annihilated. How could Heng Ming see it? I called you here today to tell you that your uncle Cho Hui just sent a message. The Taiqing faction of the Meng Kingdom will host the Feather Fairy Gathering next year and sent an invitation to the Utopia faction. Your uncle Cho Hui has accepted the disciple selection for the Feather Fairy Gathering. According to his idea, he wants to give you a hand and let you be the deputy leader of the team. What do you think? Hearing this, Li Zongbao pondered for a moment and said in a low voice, I appreciate Uncle Cho Hui's kindness. But the Feather Fairy Gathering is in the Meng Kingdom. This is related to the reputation of the Utopia faction. I'm just a cultivator at the initial stage of the foundation establishment stage. How can I be the deputy leader? Uncle Cho Hui's idea is somewhat inappropriate. Heng Ming waved his hand and said with a smile, you don't have to worry about this kind of thing. Your Uncle Cho Hui won't assign you casually. The Feather Fairy Gathering is just a gathering of cultivators at the peak of the qi refining stage. It's a chance to show off the strength of our faction and communicate with the disciples of other factions. Even if there is any victory or defeat, it's just a child's play in our eyes. Don't take it seriously. You're just a cultivator at the initial stage of the foundation establishment stage. It's just right for you to go there. Li Zongbao understood what his master meant. He had stepped into the foundation establishment stage at a young age and was considered an outstanding cultivator among the various factions of the Lian Kingdom. If he went there as the deputy leader, he didn't need to participate in the exchange and could use his age to show off the strength of the Utopia faction. He was indeed a very good candidate. So Li Zongbao cupped his hands and said, I'll listen to Master and Uncle Cho Hui's instructions. Okay, then you should make some preparations. Refine and familiarize yourself with your magic artifacts. The Feather Fairy Gathering will be held next year. At that time, a disciple will inform you. Heng Ming waved his hand and said, Yes, I know. Li Zongbao nodded and then asked, I wonder if this year's Feather Fairy Gathering will still be held in the Xi Nation, the Meng Kingdom, or the Lian Kingdom? Yes, of course. Heng Ming said impatiently, when did the Han Kingdom participate? What about the cultivation families? Will they participate? Humph. How could they be qualified to participate? Heng Ming sneered and said, the Feather Fairy Gathering has always been a matter of the cultivation families. What does it have to do with them? Yes, I understand. I'll take my leave now. Li Zongbao didn't dare to say anything more. He bowed and was about to leave. Just then, Heng Ming suddenly asked, Zongbao, have you made a breakthrough in your parting love treasure mirror? Li Zongbao smiled bitterly and said in a low voice, I feel that I'm about to make a breakthrough. But there's always a barrier in front of me. I know the door, but I can't enter it. Mortal bond. Inner demon. Worry. Heng Ming said without hesitation, the parting love treasure mirror is the best cultivation method of the Taiqing sect. It's the best way to cultivate to the gold core stage. At the same time, it's also the basic incantation to cut off mortal thoughts and condense a nascent soul with a pure heart. Zongbao, you have to take care of yourself. I understand. Li Zongbao lowered his head and replied with a slightly changed expression. After Li Zongbao left, Heng Ming only glanced outside the hall. He then turned around and closed his eyes to adjust his breathing. As for Xiaohua, after leaving the eastern mountain herb garden, he used the lightning escape technique. His speed was much faster than before. He flew straight to Wu Xian's cave in the 10,000 Thunder Valley. Before he landed, a divine sense swept past him. Xiaohua was very familiar with that divine sense. It was Wu Xian. Xiaohua smiled and tried to release his own divine sense. When the two divine senses met, Wu Xian's divine sense immediately retracted, as if he was afraid of damaging Xiaohua's divine sense. Then, Wu Xian's laughter came from the cave in the distance. Ha ha ha, as expected of a disciple of the 10,000 Thunder Valley. You broke through to the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm in just a year. Your divine sense is also very authentic. Then, Wu Xian and Xiang Yang appeared in the distance. When they arrived, Xiang Yang also smiled and said, "Congratulations, little junior brother." Xiaohua bowed to the two and said with a smile, "This is all because of master's teachings and eldest senior brother's supervision." Ha ha ha. Wu Xian laughed again as if he really taught Xiaohua. He then waved his hand and said, "Go, your master's wife has prepared a gift for you. See if it's suitable." When he heard that there was something to take, Xiaohua immediately beamed with joy. He then followed Wu Xian and Xiang Yang into the cave. Inside the cave, Zhuo Minghui and Yan Qinglian had already prepared the spirit wine and spirit fruits. When they saw Xiaohua, they naturally congratulated him. When everyone was seated, the first thing Xiaohua smelled was the fragrance of the emerald green spirit wine in the wine cup. This fragrance was very refreshing, fragrant, and pleasant. It was many times more tempting than the wine he tasted in the young immortal's cave. Good, good, no wonder eldest senior brother nagged master. This spirit wine is really good. Xiaohua thought, but his eyes were glued to the wine cup. Cough cough, Wu Xian coughed and said, "Today is the happiest day in the 10,000 Thunder Valley." Since Xiaohua entered the 10,000 Thunder Valley, he has been diligently cultivating. His cultivation has been constantly improving. Today, he has finally stepped into the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm. Although he hasn't built his foundation, his divine sense has already been stimulated. Looking at Xiaohua's cultivation, if nothing unexpected happens, building his foundation won't be a problem. It can be said that he already has 1 foot in the foundation establishment realm. Xiang Yang's face was also full of smiles. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but after hesitating for a moment, he closed it again. He helplessly raised his wine cup and said with a smile, "Everyone, let's toast to the happy occasion of my 10,000 Thunder Valley." "Thank you, master." Xiaohua was very happy. He raised his wine cup and looked at everyone. After waiting for everyone to drink the wine, he also raised his head and poured the spirit wine into his mouth. As the spirit wine entered his throat, a burning feeling emerged from his throat. That feeling rushed to his head and flowed into his body along with the spirit wine. Ah! Xiaohua didn't expect the spirit wine to be so spicy. He couldn't help but cry out. Chapter 1578. When Xiaohua cried out, that spicy taste rushed to his nose and mouth. His eyes couldn't help but tear up, and those tears almost burst out. Just when Xiaohua felt that he was being rude and wanted to wipe it away, that spicy taste suddenly flipped, and actually turned into an extremely cool and refreshing feeling. A wave of comfort formed in Xiaohua's body. However, before Xiaohua could carefully savor this comfortable feeling, that cool and refreshing feeling changed again, and the spicy taste appeared again. Ouch! 9 transformations of spirit wine. Xiaohua suddenly thought of what Xiang Yang said before. As expected, in just a few breaths, the 9 layers of spicy and refreshing feeling became stronger and stronger, tormenting Xiaohua. However, after the spicy and refreshing feeling passed, no matter if it was his body or meridians, there was an incomparable feeling, making Xiaohua extremely comfortable. His entire body slumped on the chair, and he didn't even want to move a finger. After a while, Xiaohua saw that everyone was looking at him with a smile that wasn't a smile. He hurriedly straightened up, and said with a smile, "Master, this spirit wine is indeed special. Not bad, right? Do you want another cup?" Helplessly smiled. "Don't, Master, this is good, but disciple doesn't have the fortune to enjoy it. I really can't stand the feeling of surprise in the wine." Xiaohua hurriedly waved his hand. "Disciple still likes the peaceful and fragrant spirit wine from eldest senior brother's place." Xiaohua, I see that you're not a person who adheres to old customs. Why do you like that kind of spirit wine?" Helplessly curiously said, "Only people like your eldest senior brother who don't want to make progress like the faint taste." Xiaohua bitterly smiled, and said, "Disciple's nature is a peaceful person, and I don't like the taste of wine. On the contrary, eldest senior brother has always been thinking about master's spirit wine. Today is to celebrate you stepping into Qi refinement level 12, so I let him drink a cup. Otherwise, let him cultivate to foundation building middle stage first. At that time, I'll let him drink all the spirit wine here." Helplessly said angrily. "Master, can disciple drink a few more cups today?" Xiaohua smiled. "Of course." Helplessly nodded. "Hee, Xiaohua, master's wife's spirit wine, you can't drink more than 3 cups for the first time, or else it will be detrimental to your mind." Xiang Yang wasn't angry, and only reminded Xiaohua. "Then disciple will drink 3 cups today." As Xiaohua spoke, he picked up the wine cup in front of Yan Qinglian, filled his own cup to the brim, and brought it in front of Xiang Yang. He said, "However, this disciple's alcohol tolerance isn't high enough. Let eldest senior brother drink this cup on my behalf." "Io, junior brother." Xiang Yang didn't expect this at all. He quickly got up and waved his hand. "This is a gift from master. Eat it." "Eldest senior brother, ever since I came to the Myriad Thunder Valley, master has been very busy. Only eldest senior brother has been guiding me in my cultivation. I am a loose cultivator, so there are very few people guiding me in my cultivation. Today, I was able to reach the 12th layer of Qi refining all thanks to senior martial brother's guidance. If I don't drink a toast to senior martial brother, I'll feel bad." If he felt apologetic, wouldn't there be a knot in his heart? "If eldest senior brother doesn't drink this cup of wine, I won't be able to get rid of the knot in my heart. My future cultivation will be a problem." This. Xiang Yang's face turned dark red. He looked at Xiao Yan's helpless face. He waved his hand and said, "It's your junior brother's kind intentions. You should drink it. His cultivation, you've really worked hard." "Yes, disciple doesn't dare to claim credit." Xiang Yang's eyes were filled with tears as he received the wine cup. Xiaohua said in a low voice, "I've used this wine cup before. Eldest senior martial brother, please don't dislike it." Xiang Yang had a smile on his face as he looked at Xiaohua. Then, he raised his head and drank the spirit wine. Xiaohua picked up the wine pot and walked in front of Yan Qinglian. He said with a smile, "Junior brother will ask senior martial sister to drink this 3rd cup. Junior martial sister's care for me is something that I can't express with words." Yan Qinglian stood up and received the wine cup. She didn't panic in the slightest. She seemed to know that Xiaohua would do this. She smiled and said, "It's Xiang Yang's good fortune to have a junior martial brother like you. Although junior martial brother's current cultivation is still too low, his future is limitless. I can't say much about the Myriad Thunder Valley, but I and your eldest senior martial brother will need your care in the future." She drank the spiritual wine in one gulp. Xiaohua smiled and said, "Don't worry, senior martial sister. I don't dare to promise senior martial sister and eldest senior martial brother, but as for Xiang Zhili, I promise you." Yan Qinglian naturally heard Xiang Yang's arrogant words and knew who Xiang Zhili was. Her face immediately turned red. Zhuo Minghui laughed and scolded, "You child, you're really naughty." Yes, Xiang Yang, Qinglian, Xiaohua was right. I've been busy with the sect's affairs, and you've also worked hard on the myriad Thunder Valley. Master will also give you a toast. Helplessly, he suddenly said. Master. Xiang Yang was shocked and felt extremely uncomfortable. Helplessly, he waved his hand. 2 lines of wine flew out from the wine pot in Xiaohua's hand and landed in the 2's wine cups. Only then did Xiang Yang choke and said, Disciple is unworthy and has shamed master, don't talk nonsense. Just drink when I tell you to. Helplessly, he shouted and interrupted Xiang Yang's words. Only then did Xiang Yang feel the spirit wine pouring into his stomach and said, Thank you, master. Beside him, Yan Qinglian's face was still red. She drank the spirit wine unhurriedly and said, Thank you, master, for the spirit wine. Receiving Helplessly's praise, Xiang Yang was very excited. Everyone talked for a while. Xiang Yang gathered his courage and said in a low voice, Actually, youngest junior martial brother's talent is outstanding. He's a genius cultivator, but he was a loose cultivator before and practiced 3 kinds of cultivation methods. Shut up. Helplessly was unhappy and scolded. Husband. Zhuo Minghui was also unhappy and said in a low voice, Xiang Yang is right. You have placed too much hope on Xiaohua. I'm afraid the child will have too much burden. Xiang Yang is also thinking for Xiaohua. Helplessly, he didn't dare to glare at Zhuo Minghui and could only glare at Xiang Yang. Xiaohua also understood Xiang Yang's meaning and said with a smile, Thank you for your kindness, eldest senior martial brother. Disciple also knows master's thoughts. However, disciple will do his best to build his foundation. After all, this is related to disciple's future, so disciple won't be careless. Of course, if there are any mistakes, master should be able to understand. Nonsense. Helplessly said angrily, How can there be any mistakes? You have a concealed fire physique, which is very fierce. Building your foundation's bottleneck is nothing difficult. Okay, husband, don't talk about building your foundation anymore. Xiaohua has just reached the early stage of the 12th layer of the aura refining realm. No matter what, there's still 4 to 5 years until he builds his foundation. During this time, let Xiang Yang give him more pointers. If you have time, you should also go and take a look. With Xiang Yang and your help, Xiaohua probably won't repeat the same mistakes. Okay, helplessly, he muttered. Zhuo Minghui was displeased. She clapped her hands again and took out a red net-shaped magic tool. She handed it to Xiaohua and said with a smile, Master's wife wanted to give you a meeting gift a few years ago, but who knew that there wasn't anything suitable? Today, you've entered the 12th layer of the aura refining realm and also have your own divine sense. This magic tool is just right for you. Xiaohua was overjoyed. He stepped forward and received it. After thanking Zhuo Minghui, he picked up the magic tool and carefully examined it. He saw that this magic tool was made up of thin crimson silk threads connected together. The place where each silk thread interweaved was decorated with tiny top-grade spirit stones. On top of the silk threads, there were faint flashes of runes. When the runes slightly flashed, the top-grade spirit stones also flashed. Master's wife, what's the name of this magic tool? Xiaohua looked at the magic tool. He didn't know whether he liked this magic tool or liked the fact that there were so many top-grade spirit stones on the magic tool. He was smiling so widely that he couldn't close his mouth. Hee, I'll let you know. My Imperial Thunder sect has a famous magic tool called, By Fang Roaring Sky Cover. Zhuo Minghui said with a smile. Ah. Master's wife, isn't this too precious? Xiaohua was shocked when he heard this. You actually want that, By Fang Roaring Sky Cover? Helplessly said unhappily, that, By Fang Roaring Sky Cover doesn't like you. Xiaohua smiled and didn't say anything else. You silly child, this isn't some magic tool. It's a fake that the sect's weapon refiner imitated. It can be considered a magic tool. Zhuo Minghui glared at helplessly and said, that, Baifeng roaring sky cover, is woven from the essence of leaf fire. There's a leaf fire formation within it, leaf fire formation? Xiaohua suddenly thought of the formation in his Eastern Ridge medicinal garden. When the Baifeng roaring sky cover is activated, it can absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth from its surroundings and transform it into leaf fire. If one is enveloped by the Baifeng roaring sky cover and doesn't have a magic tool that can restrain leaf fire, then there's absolutely no way for them to escape. This magic tool is refined from the silk of the southern light fire silkworm. Although there's a formation on the silk, it's simple and far inferior to the leaf fire formation. Moreover, although the silk of the southern light fire silkworm is precious, it can't absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth from its surroundings after all. It can only add top-grade fire attribute spirit stones on top of this silk. Zhuo Minghui explained, as for the name. When this magic tool is activated, several fire crows will be born within it. There's no harm in calling it Spirit Crow Fire Net. How about it? Ha, many thanks for the name, Master's wife. Xiaohua very happily thanked her. However, this Spirit Crow Fire Net has a shortcoming. Zhuo Minghui smiled and waved her hand. This magic tool relies entirely on top-grade fire attribute spirit stones. If one is missing, there'll be a flaw in the formation. If too many are missing, it'll be completely useless. You'll have to prepare more fire attribute spirit stones in the future. When Xiaohua heard this, he curled his lips and said, Master's wife, you're making things difficult for me. Where can I get top-grade fire attribute spirit stones? Junior Marshall brother doesn't need to worry. I still have a few pieces. I'll have your senior Marshall sister take them for you. Xiang Yang hurriedly said. Hehe, it won't be too late to take them later. As she spoke, Zhuo Minghui took out a jade slip and handed it to Xiaohua, saying, this is the method to refine this magic tool. There are also some methods to refine other magic tools. Master's wife remembers that you once asked your master for this, right? When? Xiaohua stared blankly. He hurriedly took it and said with a smile, many thanks, Master's wife. Many thanks, Master. That's right, I have a question I want to ask Master. Ask away. Seeing this, Xiaohua didn't ask any more and said with a smile. Chapter 1579. Master, when disciple was participating in the selection, I saw that the disciples of influential families who were in the 12th layer and even the 11th layer of the aura refining realm were holding their ancestral magic tools. Since they entered my Imperial Thunder sect, did those magic tools also fall into the hands of my Imperial Thunder sect? Ha ha ha, he laughed helplessly. You brat, how is that possible? Those magic tools were passed down from the ancestors of various cultivation families. How could they benefit my Imperial Thunder sect? Besides, once those disciples entered my Imperial Thunder sect, they were my Imperial Thunder sect's disciples. How could they still use their family's magic tools? A year later, when those disciples officially joined my Imperial Thunder sect, those magic tools were given out of Thunderclap Peak. Oh, so that's how it is. Xiaohua was somewhat regretful. Disciple thought those magic tools all belonged to my Imperial Thunder sect. Maybe Disciple could even get one. In your dreams. He snorted helplessly, then asked, let's not talk about anything else. Tell me about the process of advancing to the 12th layer of the aura refining realm. It's already been more than a year. Let me listen. See if there are any deviations. Xiaohua knew this would happen. He had already thought about it on the way here. He would only give up on the Buddha's Saraira and tell everything else in full detail. What? Your true qi was actually ignited by the heart fire. He helplessly looked at Zhuo Minghui. Xiang Yang also looked at Yan Qinglian in astonishment. The four of them were all foundation-building cultivators and also came from the 12th layer of the aura refining realm. They had never heard of Xiao Hua's abnormality. Maybe, it's because of the body of hidden fire. Xiang Yang hesitated. He helplessly thought for a long time, then nodded and said, that's the only way. Fortunately, Xiao Hua has the Jade Qilin fruit and my Imperial Thunder sect's secret technique. Otherwise, it's really hard to say. Immediately, a smile appeared on his face. This also means that Xiao Hua is a disciple of my 10,000 Thunder Valley and can build his foundation. The other four all smiled. Seeing everyone smile, Xiao Hua's heart moved. He said, Master, disciple still has something to ask. What? He asked helplessly. That, the meridians after the 12th layer of the aura refining realm, are there no more? Disciple feels that. Not waiting for Xiao Hua to finish speaking, he helplessly slapped the armrest of the chair, stood up, and said angrily, Xiao Hua, what do you want me to say to you? Although, your mind is flexible, you can deduce many things from one instance, and you know 100 times better than your eldest senior brother. But I can't always take the unconventional path. The 12th layer of Qi condensation is the essence of my Imperial Thunder sect, and even the essence of the various sects and clans of the Dawn Rain continent, over tens of thousands of years. If there were extra meridians, then there would definitely be a 13th layer of Qi condensation, but why is there only a 12th layer? Why would there be signs of liquefaction after reaching the 12th layer of Qi refining? This means that there are only these Qi passageways. There are no other Qi passageways. The other Qi passageways are for foundation establishment, gold core, and even the nascent soul stage. Why don't you put your mind on how to build your foundation? Why do you have to think about the meridians of the Aurus core stage? Do you think you're the only smart person in the world? The more helplessly spoke, the angrier he became. He angrily said, if you want those Qi passageways, then go back to Zhenlei Palace and take your sect master's order to the Jade Archive Hall. Let the sect master send someone to accept you as a disciple. I don't have the ability to teach you. Master. Xiao Hua was greatly alarmed. He promptly bowed and said, Disciple. Disciple was only asking. Why did I think so much? Husband, Zhuo Minghui promptly got up and pulled him back. She helplessly said, Xiao Hua used to be a loose cultivator, so he used his own brain a lot. Now that he's asking, it's to show your prestige as a master. Otherwise, why would he have a master like you? Why don't you tell Xiao Hua properly? Why are you so angry? That's right, master. You always say that disciple is stupid. Xiang Yang also hurriedly tried to persuade her. Shut up, I'm not talking about you. Helplessly angrily said, if only he had half of your abilities. He's only at the 11th layer of Qi refining. What lightning evasion technique? What divine sense control technique? What divine accumulation talisman? Don't think that master doesn't know anything. What's the use of those things if you want them early? Don't you still have to wait until you reach the 12th layer of Qi refining before you can use them? Yes, master, please calm down. Disciple knows his mistake. Xiao Hua promptly said. Helplessly swinging her sleeves, she turned around and entered the inner mansion. Master. Xiao Hua very anxiously shouted. It's fine, Xiao Hua. Zhuo Minghui forced a smile and said, your master was also afraid that you would take a detour, so she warned you. These are all my cultivation experiences. You must listen to them and remember them in your heart. Sometimes taking risks is admittedly rewarding, but more often than not, it's all for naught. If there's a smooth path to the heavens, why don't you obediently walk on it? The opportunity to build your foundation is also fleeting. If you don't start building your foundation when there are signs of building your foundation, the chances of building your foundation in the future will be much less. Moreover, there are signs of building your foundation, which means that your meridians have reached the limit of refining true Qi. If you don't build your foundation, your magic power won't increase. Even if, Your meridians have the medicinal power of the clear flower pill. I'm afraid that your meridians won't be able to refine them anymore. You'll only end up with your meridians exploding. Disciple knows. Eldest senior brother has already said these things. Xiaohua nodded. And, it's good that you know. Don't think too much. Go out with your eldest senior brother first and let him guide you in your future cultivation. You can't be too smart for your own good. Zhuo Minghui said, then thought of something and said, is the restriction on the medicinal power of the clear flower pill good? Before you build your foundation, you still have to let your master use it again. Don't let anything go wrong. Master's wife, last time master checked it, he said that if nothing unexpected happens, the restriction can be used for 10 years. Disciple also didn't notice any abnormalities. Xiaohua respectfully replied. Alright, you can go first. Zhuo Minghui sighed and also entered the inner residence. Xiaohua could only follow Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian back to their abode. Xiang Yang saw that Xiaohua was somewhat sad and didn't say anything more. He only let Xiaohua go back and rest for a few more days. After a period of time, he'll come back to listen to the lecture. Xiaohua came out of Myriad Thunder Valley. His heart was somewhat chaotic. After flying for a while, he found that the direction was wrong. It seemed to be heading towards Heavenly Thunder Palace. Just as he was about to turn around, he thought to himself, today I've angered Master, I'm afraid I'll have to apologize to him. Master has always been thinking about the Heavenly Thunder Palace's lightning evasion technique. It's just that he has some misgivings about his face and didn't ask me too much. I've always been busy cultivating. Isn't this a good opportunity? Thinking, Xiaohua sped up and flew towards Heavenly Thunder Palace's Thunder Immortal Peak. Heavenly Thunder Palace's technique imparting pavilion was in Rumbling Thunder Hall. It was different from Shocking Thunder Palace's technique imparting pavilion. It was a whole ball of lightning. In the middle of the lightning, an 8-story pavilion was faintly visible. After Xiaohua threw in the sect master's command token and his own identity token, a light path flickered with lightning. At the end of the path was a sky full of stars. Those jade slips and ancient books were like stars decorating the sky. As it turned out, this Heavenly Thunder Palace's technique imparting pavilion was actually built on top of an illusion array. Qi refining, foundation building and other cultivation levels were divided into different starry skies. Each level was higher than the previous, and each level was blocked by a restriction. Xiaohua didn't stay in the Qi refining layer for long. He directly used the sect master's command token to go to the starry skies where the foundation building cultivation method was located. Then, he very easily found the 9th level of the lightning evasion technique. However, he was a little worried. He had no problem reading the jade slips with his divine sense, but if he had to make a copy of the jade slips, he couldn't do it. Not to mention whether the copy of the jade slips could be read or not, he didn't even dare to guarantee that the copy would be complete. Without any other choice, Xiaohua pointed at the sect master's command token. A bright yellow brilliance flew out. In a moment, a huge human figure that filled the starry skies appeared in front of Xiaohua. Disciple Xiaohua has something to trouble senior with. Seeing this, Xiaohua hurriedly bowed and said, What is a 12th level Qi refining disciple doing here? That cultivator was obviously stunned. Xiaohua also didn't explain much and handed over the sect master's command token. That cultivator looked at it and nodded, saying, Xiaohua, what did you call me for? Disciple wants to make a copy of this lightning evasion technique and bring it out of the technique imparting pavilion. This is also explained in the sect master's command token, right? Xiaohua said with a smile. Wait a moment. That cultivator said as he grabbed a ball of starlight from the starry skies. Sweeping it with his divine sense, he nodded and said, Yes, the sect master has instructed that you can make a copy of the lightning evasion technique. Disciple has just reached the 12th level of Qi refining, and my divine sense is newly formed. I'm afraid the copy won't be good. Senior, please help me. Xiao Hua said respectfully. That cultivator slightly wrinkled his brows and said in a low voice, the sect master's command token doesn't allow my technique imparting pavilion to make a copy of the lightning evasion technique. Naturally, you have no right to order this old man. So it's like that. Xiao Hua was somewhat disappointed. Just as he was about to speak, that cultivator said again, however, this old man can extend a hand to help you. It's just a small matter. Many thanks, Senior. Xiao Hua was overjoyed, but that cultivator waved his hand again. Don't worry, this old man will help you copy the lightning evasion technique, but you also have to help this old man. No problem, if Senior has a favor, how could disciple dare to disobey? Xiao Hua said with a smile. Very good. That cultivator smiled and waved his hand. The jade slip of the lightning evasion technique flew into his hand. He waved his hand again and another jade slip flew out of nowhere. That cultivator held the technique in one hand and the jade slip in the other. His powerful divine sense locked onto the technique. Soon after, a ball of green light flew out from the jade slip of the lightning evasion technique and penetrated into the jade slip in his other hand. Immediately after, that cultivator threw the lightning evasion technique. The jade slip turned into a star and fell into the starry sky. The other jade slip also flew in front of Xiao Hua's eyes. Keep it well. That cultivator said, 10 days later, wait for me here. This old man has something for you to do. 10 days. Xiao Hua put away the jade slip and said with a smile, since it's like this, disciple won't leave. Disciple will stay here and read the ancient records. It won't be too late to leave after helping Senior finish his task in 10 days. As you wish. That cultivator nodded, then turned into a shadow and disappeared. What does this Senior want me to do? Xiao Hua read the lightning evasion technique while secretly pondering. Chapter 1580. 10 days passed very quickly, and Xiao Hua's lightning evasion technique didn't make much progress. This lightning evasion technique was different from the one Xiang Yang gave him. Just the first level of the introductory technique was already very different. The Heavenly Thunder Palace's lightning evasion technique was very detailed, and the technique was also very hard to pronounce. Many details were even somewhat mysterious. Carefully comprehending it, it was actually like a cultivation technique, far from being as simple as an evasion technique. Moreover, the Heavenly Thunder Palace's lightning evasion technique was divided into 9 levels, from the initial, hibernating lightning, awakening lightning, and bright lightning, to the middle, imperial lightning travel, imperial lightning change, and imperial lightning shock, to the late, lightning traversing 3 realms, lightning surpassing 6 paths, and thunderclap 9th heaven. Each realm's name was very arrogant, and according to the records, the speed of the lightning evasion at each level was more than double. Damn it! I just cultivated this lightning evasion technique to the first level, which is the hibernating lightning realm, and the speed is already so fast. If I cultivate it to thunderclap 9th heaven, then I don't know how many times faster it would be. Wouldn't it be faster than the light evasion mentioned in reversing light? Xiao Hua was somewhat dumbfounded. At this time, he also understood why his master was so grateful when he heard Master Heavenly Thunder bestowing him the Heavenly Thunder Palace's lightning evasion technique. However, although Xiao Hua thought so, in his bones, he really didn't put the lightning evasion and the light evasion on the same level. Thinking about the difficulty of cultivating the light evasion, how could it be compared to the lightning evasion? Just as Xiao Hua was pondering, in the starry sky before him, that foundation establishment cultivator once again appeared. Follow me. That cultivator saw Xiao Hua obediently stay in the Technique Inheritance Pavilion and nodded. Yes. Xiao Hua responded and followed that cultivator out of the Technique Inheritance Pavilion. After passing through several palaces, they arrived at a side hall. Xiao Hua's sharp eyes had already seen a plaque in the side hall with the 2 words, Diligent Lightning, written on it. Entering the side hall, there was no one else in the hall, only an incense burner in the center of the hall. At this time, the incense burner didn't have any incense or candles, only an oval-shaped burner with crackling lightning. The cultivator led Xiaohua to the front of the incense burner and pointed at it. "Throw your identity tablet inside." Xiaohua did as he was told. The token flipped and flew out of the incense burner. When Xiaohua caught it, the cultivator waved his hand and said, "Come with me again." Next to the side hall were some meditation rooms. Xiaohua followed the cultivator into one of the meditation rooms. The cultivator waved his hand and the entire meditation room flashed with brilliance. The door of the meditation room disappeared. Seeing that Xiaohua's expression didn't change, the cultivator frowned. His eyes turned and he waved his hand again. A round mirror appeared in front of Xiaohua, and inside the mirror was the portrait of a cultivator. "Did you see it clearly?" the cultivator asked. "Yes, disciples saw it clearly." Xiaohua glanced at it a few times and couldn't help but ask, "May I know what senior wants disciple to do?" "Hehe, I thought you were very shrewd, but in the end, I couldn't help but ask." The cultivator snorted and said, "Remember, in a while, you only need to lose to that disciple just now." "Lose to that disciple?" Xiaohua scratched his head, but he still nodded. "Disciple understands." In a while, the competition will be in an illusion. You must have participated in the disciple selection, right? It's similar to that illusion. No matter what method you use, as long as you lose to that disciple, you've completed the mission. You and I don't owe each other anything. Seeing Xiaohua nod, the cultivator said again, "Then you can cultivate here. In a while, a disciple will come and call you. You can go with them." Soon after, the cultivator turned and left. What about the others? Xiaohua saw that the cultivator waved his hand and the brilliance flashed again. He couldn't help but ask again. "The others?" "Hehe, do as you see fit." The cultivator laughed mischievously, pushed open the door, and walked out. Seeing that the cultivator didn't speak clearly, Xiaohua also knew that he didn't want to say more. However, since it was in an illusion, even if he lost, there wouldn't be any danger to his life. If he lost, he lost. Xiaohua didn't care. Sure enough, in the time it took to eat a meal, a boy around the 7th layer of qi refining came in. He looked at Xiaohua and said with a smile, "Senior martial brother, are you participating in the selection?" "Yes, please lead the way, junior martial brother." Xiaohua stood up and said, "Please follow this disciple." The boy smiled and led the way. After leaving the quiet room, the censer in the center of the side hall was already gone. Where the censer used to be was now a square ring of light. The ring of light was the size of a fist, and there were countless runes flashing inside. There were also traces of lightning around the runes, and the inside of the ring of light was a vast expanse of white that even divine sense couldn't penetrate. Senior martial brother, this selection will be held in an illusion. Presumably, senior martial brother already knows the specific rules. Senior martial brother, please take out your identity tablet and step into this illusion formation. Senior martial brother's opponent has already been lined up when senior martial brother sent your identity tablet into the illusion formation. The boy pointed with his finger and said with a smile, "I wish senior martial brother a victory." "Hehe, I'll take advantage of junior martial brother's auspicious words." Xiaohua cupped his hands. He originally wanted to ask, "What kind of selection is this?" But he was afraid of spoiling the good thing of that cultivator just now, so he could only be a silent gourd. Xiaohua held his identity tablet and stepped into the ring of light. He only felt his vision blur, just like when he entered the illusion formation during the selection. When he opened his eyes again, he was already in a desert. Although he knew this was only an illusion formation, the scorching sun, the dry hurricane, and the fine white sand under his feet were really real. Xiaohua had never been to a desert before. Seeing this, he unconsciously crouched down and grabbed a handful of sand. The sand was very smooth. As Xiao Hua slowly let go of his hand, the sand floated in the air and danced with the wind. Damn it, this is really interesting. I don't know if there's a desert in Dawn Rain continent. I'll find some time to go gain experience. Xiao Hua used his foot to step on the sand, leaving a footprint on the desert. But immediately, it was covered by some quicksand at the side. Just when Xiao Hua wanted to play a bit more, an aged voice resounded through heaven and earth. Disciples, there are 320 disciples participating in this selection. In every round, there will be 2 disciples facing each other. The disciple who wins in a battle of magical powers will get 3 points, the disciple who loses won't get any points. If it's a draw, each disciple will get 1 point. In the end, the disciple ranked in the top 20 will win. Okay, after 10 breaths of time, the battle of magical powers will begin. Next to each disciple will appear an opponent for this round of magical powers. When Xiao Hua heard this, he was happy for no reason. To tell the truth, after he entered the Imperial Thunder sect these past few years, his cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds, leaping to the 12th level of Qi refinement in one go. This was something he didn't even dare to think about when he was a loose cultivator. Moreover, he now had divine sense and several magic tools that he could use. If he didn't find someone to practice with in this illusion formation, it would really be a pity. In any case, as long as I lose to that disciple, and I don't have to win too much, wouldn't that be enough? Xiao Hua already had a plan in mind. Soon after, Xiao Hua waved his hand and the black iron needle appeared in his hand. Suddenly, several dozen feet in front of Xiao Hua, the sunlight slightly distorted, and a short and fat cultivator gradually appeared in midair. Xiao Hua was secretly happy in his heart. He immediately sent the black iron needle under his feet, slowly flying through the sand towards that cultivator. The sandstorm in this desert was so strong, Xiao Hua didn't believe that the cultivator could use his divine sense to find the black iron needle among the thousands of grains of sand. That short and fat cultivator gradually revealed his figure. His body was surrounded by a faint brilliance. Xiao Hua knew that this brilliance should be protecting this cultivator, to prevent him from being killed as soon as he appeared. That cultivator originally had his back facing Xiao Hua, but when he turned around and saw Xiao Hua, his face flashed with a trace of vigilance. When the brilliance on that cultivator's body disappeared, the cultivator's cultivation was revealed. Xiao Hua couldn't help but stare blankly. Good, this guy is actually at the peak of the 12th level of Qi refinement. At the same time, that cultivator naturally also saw Xiao Hua's cultivation, and a trace of a relaxed smile appeared on his face. Junior Martial Brother, I am Qian Yi from Heavenly Thunder Palace. How should I address you? That cultivator cupped his hands and said with a smile. Disciple Xiao Hua from Heavenly Thunder Palace greets Senior Martial Brother. Xiao Hua also returned the greeting. Junior Martial Brother Xiao has some guts, daring to register with such a cultivation level. Qian Yi waved his hand and took out several yellow talismans. He urged his magic power and placed them on his body, but his mouth didn't stop talking. However, it's no wonder. This is an illusion formation, it won't harm your life. It's also not bad to come and see the world. Xiao Hua originally wanted to ask about this Qian Ye's selection, but after hearing his words, a trace of arrogance rose in his heart. This young master isn't stingy with foundation establishment cultivators. Why would I care about you, a 12th level Qi refinement cultivator? Why would this young master ask you these things? I'll just kill all of you. Finished thinking, Xiao Hua urged his magic power, and his whole body floated into the air, flying towards the distance. Junior Martial Brother Xiao, this elder brother knew you would be like this. Don't be afraid, this elder brother will just kill you, I won't harm your life. Qian Yi laughed loudly, and clapped his hand again. A rhombus-shaped magic tool appeared in his hand. At the same time, he also urged his flying technique, chasing after Xiao Hua while throwing the magic tool in the air. Once the rhombus-shaped magic tool left his hand, it suddenly expanded, turning into a short spear that was 3 feet long. Surrounded by electric sparks, it pierced towards Xiaohua's back. Seeing that Xiaohua's flying speed wasn't as fast as the short spear, the tip of the short spear extended once again, and was about to pierce Xiaohua's back in a few breaths' time. Qian Ye's face unconsciously revealed a trace of a smile. I just entered the selection and I already met an extremely weak person. I don't know what this guy is thinking. What is he doing here? Is he just here to give away points to I? Go! Qian Yi lightly reprimanded, guiding the short spear with his divine sense, and urging his magic power again. The tip of the short spear faintly flashed, seemingly piercing through Xiaohua's defensive restriction. But at this moment, Xiaohua's body suddenly flashed, and he actually dodged the short spear with extreme agility. Chapter 1581. How is this possible? Qian Yi couldn't have imagined that Xiaohua would be able to dodge the short spear without using any magic. Because of this, Qian Yi didn't have enough time to activate the short spear. The short spear missed. Although Qian Yi was shocked, he didn't think much of it. His opponent was just a disciple who had just entered the 12th level of qi refining. The difference between him and Qian Yi wasn't small at all. Unfortunately, this sort of contempt had just arisen in his heart, and he hadn't even had the chance to drive the short spear to chase after Xiaohua when Xiaohua actually dodged the short spear at the same time. Xiaohua's figure suddenly turned around and actually flew towards him. Luring the snake out of its hole. Qian Yi was shocked again, but then he sneered. He slapped his hand and was about to take out the flying sword talisman from his storage pouch. However, a shocking scene occurred. As soon as he took out the flying sword talisman, Xiaohua's 2 small eyes suddenly appeared in front of him. Under those slender eyebrows, there was also a pair of phoenix eyes that were full of mockery. Oh no, how can he be so fast? Qian Yi cursed inwardly. He activated his magic and was about to release the flying sword talisman. Unexpectedly, Xiaohua shot in front of Qian Yi like an arrow. He didn't attack, but instead flew towards Qian Ye's head. All that was left was a large stack of yellow talismans. This bastard, what is he doing? Qian Ye's attention naturally followed Xiaohua as he flew up. Xiaohua's fireball talismans were completely ignored. Rumble, a series of fireballs exploded around Qian Yi. The scorching heat wave blew Qian Ye's entire body into the air. Although Qian Ye's face was filled with shock and his body flashed with brilliance, it was clear that there was no fear in his eyes. Although Xiaohua used the best quality fireball talismans he made himself, this was still an illusion. The surrounding spiritual energy was different from the outside world. The fireball talisman's explosive power was limited. Moreover, Qian Yi was already in the late 12th level of qi refining. Although he hadn't entered the realm of perfection, but his divine sense had already reached a certain level. His magic could also form a defense around his body. The fireball talisman couldn't do any real damage to him. Oh my, it really is a 12th layer qi refining cultivator. Xiaohua was also slightly surprised. He immediately waved his hand and scattered even more fireball talismans around the dried leaves. This time, Xiaohua didn't scatter them blindly. Instead, he used his Buddhist consciousness to drive them. The chaotic fireballs were still orderly. So this is your technique? Qian Yi laughed loudly. Just as Xiaohua threw out the fireball talisman, the short spear also flew up. Seeing Xiaohua's fireballs coming down, the tip of the short spear trembled. Like a skewer of tanghulu, it pierced through several bursting fireball talismans all at once. Ha ha ha! Qian Yi laughed out loud. The short spear shook again and was about to pierce through another fireball talisman. However, just as the short spear pierced through, the remaining fireball talismans swam away like fish, one by one flying towards Qian Ye's legs and exploding. Feeling the intense vibrations in his legs, Qian Ye's figure staggered slightly. This bastard also knows how to attack together. But if he thinks he can take down a 12th-layer Qi refining cultivator with only fireball talismans, I'm afraid he's delusional. Qian Yi sneered in his heart, but then he was shocked. Oh my, could it be that this bastard also has a magic weapon? But just as Qian Ye's suspicions were rising, Xiaohua also took out a triangular magic weapon not far in front of him. Oh, so there it is. Qian Ye's heart calmed down. At this moment, several fireball talismans exploded at the same time, causing the defense around his body to be somewhat scattered. Qian Yi channeled his magic power, and just as he was about to deplete the magic power of his defense, a huge force suddenly appeared at the place where the fireball talismans exploded. That force was extremely strong and extremely sharp. The already weakened defense brilliance could not stop the force from piercing through. Oh no! Qian Yi only had time to lower his head. He didn't even have time to see what was piercing through his legs before his vision turned black. His entire body suddenly disappeared. When he opened his eyes again, he was already in the Thunder Temple. Damn it! Qian Yi was about to stomp his feet. He felt that he hadn't even used any divine abilities. How could he be eliminated just like that? Xiaohua only flew a bit faster and had a few more top-grade fireball talismans. Qian Yi didn't even see the magic weapon in Xiaohua's hands clearly. Moreover, looking around him, those who were eliminated before him were all mid-12th layer Qi refining cultivators. How could there be a late-stage cultivator like him? Suddenly, Qian Ye's back was drenched in cold sweat. His teeth were about to chatter. Oh my god, could it be, this bastard is using two magic weapons? He has one in his hands, and the other is attacking me. Can he really use his divine will to drive two magic weapons? That's something that even early Foundation establishment cultivators can't do. If we met elsewhere, even if my cultivation level was much higher than his, I still wouldn't be his match, right? The problem is, he just reached the 12th layer Qi refining. His divine will should have just been activated. How could he drive two magic weapons? Yes, the one in his hands must be a cover. The one under me is the real magic weapon. Alas, it's not an injustice to be defeated by such a scheming opponent. Qian Yi didn't expect that it wasn't just the black iron needle and the black dust. Even those scattered fireball talismans were controlled by Xiaohua's Buddhist consciousness. This was much more difficult than controlling two magic weapons. Inside the illusion, Xiaohua didn't feel any joy after eliminating Qian Yi. With a wave of his hand, the black iron needle returned to his hand. Holding the two magic weapons in his hands, he stared fixedly at the place where Qian Yi just disappeared. His brows were tightly knitted. After a while, he shook his head slightly and said to himself, Qian Yi is only a 12th layer Qi refining cultivator, but his defense is already so strong. My top-grade fireball talismans can certainly make his expression change, but they can't make him panic. Yes, even if he panics and scatters these fireball talismans, they won't be able to produce the expected effect of opening the defense of my black iron needle. I need to think more. My future opponents won't be just 7th or 8th layer Qi refining cultivators. With this thought, Xiaohua calmly stood in midair, allowing the sandstorm to cover him. Perhaps I still need to rely on the black dust. While thinking, Xiaohua formed a hand seal. Magic power spread out, and an earthy yellow brilliance flew out from the black dust. Inside the brilliance were tiny particles. Wherever the brilliance went, the sandstorm above the desert was instantly swept away, revealing a clean sky. Young master got it. Looking at the place where the earthy yellow brilliance had just passed and the sandstorm covered the horizon, Xiaohua's heart suddenly jumped. He thought of something. At this moment, the world suddenly became quiet. The sandstorm in the desert was no longer. A voice resounded through the world, "Disciples, the first round is over. The disciples who won have already recorded their points. Disciples who have been eliminated, please enter the illusion array and prepare for the second round of battle. Haha, Xiaohua only realized at this moment. There were more than 200 people, 2 on 2. That was more than 200 battles. Weren't they afraid of losing their lives? Where else could they find this kind of opportunity to practice? Just as he was laughing loudly, a burst of brilliance flashed around Xiaohua's body. He didn't know which part of the illusion array he was assigned to, but not far from him, Qian Ye's figure appeared again. Xiaohua's vision darkened. He calmly waited for the light to come again. Unfortunately, after a while, Xiaohua's surroundings didn't light up. It was still pitch black. This is... Xiaohua was slightly stunned. Suddenly, a kind of fear came from the top of his head. Xiaohua didn't have time to think. He wanted to dodge, but it was still too late. An incomparably huge pressure came from the top of his head, firmly pressing down on his shoulders and back. This kind of pressure wasn't just pure strength, but more of it was the solidification of magic power. Xiaohua naturally didn't admit defeat. His 2 arms moved, and he was about to use his divine power. At this moment, a beautiful female cultivator's figure flashed a faint light in front of him. With the help of the light, Xiaohua could clearly see that the female cultivator was also a disciple at the late stage of the 12th stage of qi refining. In the disciple's hand, a flying sword quickly pierced towards his chest. Damn it! Seeing that he couldn't fight back and that defeat was imminent, Xiaohua couldn't help but bitterly smile. Only now did he think of using his divine sense to sweep outside with his Buddhist awareness. Sure enough, this was a pitch-black and boundless sky. Relying solely on the naked eye, he couldn't see anything clearly. He could only rely on his divine sense. And in the pitch-black horizon, a large seal was suspended in midair, firmly pressing down on him. Poor Xiaohua, when the other side had already released their magic tool and was about to attack, he was still thinking of waiting for the light. It would be strange if he wasn't eliminated. At this time, Xiaohua once again lost track of the light. His eyes lit up. He was inside the Thunder Temple. Damn it! Seeing that there were no traces of people around, Xiaohua smiled bitterly. Needless to say, he was the first to be eliminated. At this moment, Xiaohua's eyes swept over. The cultivator who brought him here just now seemed to have coincidentally passed through the temple and was inadvertently looking at him. Seeing that cultivator's gaze sweep over him and no longer pay attention to him, Xiaohua understood in his heart. Looking at the several Foundation establishment disciples standing not too far away, he also lowered his head and inwardly pondered, what kind of selection is this? Humph, who cares? It seems that the illusions of this selection are all different. Just now, if I had released my divine sense earlier, I wouldn't have been so passive. That female cultivator's magic tool is admittedly powerful, but my divine power isn't to be trifled with either. It seems I'll have to release my divine sense often in the future. Immediately, Xiaohua didn't want to waste time. He sat down cross-legged, closed his eyes, and pondered, thinking about how to deal with it in the future. As the number of disciples who were eliminated increased, the surroundings also started to become somewhat clamorous. Low whispers were all coming from disciples who were familiar with each other. But in the midst of this clamor, a somewhat astonished voice rang out, is that Xiaohua? You're actually already in the 12th layer of the aura refining realm? That voice belonged to a female disciple, but it didn't sound familiar. Xiaohua was somewhat baffled and looked towards the voice. Chapter 1582. Seeing a cool oval face, Xiaohua suddenly realized that this female disciple was Xue Xue's senior sister, Sun Shu. At this time, Sun Shu's cultivation was already at the late stage of qi refining. When Xiaohua saw clearly that it was Sun Shu, he smiled and cupped his hands, so it's senior sister Sun Shu. You. Xiaohua, before you entered my Imperial Thunder sect, were you really a loose cultivator? Sun Shu didn't return the greeting. She stared straight at Xiaohua and asked very directly. Sun Shu's voice wasn't soft. The people nearby had already heard it and unconsciously looked over here. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. He knew that Sun Shu was a direct disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect. She hadn't experienced the bloody storms of the cultivation world under the thunderclap peak. Although her cultivation was high, she was still a bit lacking in worldly wisdom. He could only look left and right and said in a low voice, "My good senior sister, can you speak a bit softer?" Xiaohua's words were very unintentional and did not have much meaning behind them. However, when Sun Shu heard this, her eyes were first stunned and then immediately became angry. However, before her anger could be born, a trace of shyness flashed across her cheeks. However, that bashfulness disappeared in the blink of an eye, and Sun Shu regained her previous cold elegance. At this time, Xiaohua raised his eyebrows, and said in a low voice, "This one was originally a loose cultivator, and did not have the heart to hide it. Shui also knows this. But senior sister can't say it like this in front of everyone, right? You also know that many people are prejudiced against loose cultivators." Hearing Shui's name, Sun Shu's eyes emitted a strange brilliance. Then, she nodded out of character, "I was negligent. Junior brother Xiao, please don't blame me." Finished speaking, she cupped her hands and turned to leave. "Hey, senior sister Sun Shu." Seeing Sun Shu leave very abruptly, Xiaohua raised his hand, wanting to call out to her. "Nonsense, what's the use of this selection?" Xiaohua still wanted to get information from Sun Shu's mouth. But Sun Shu turned a deaf ear to Xiaohua's call and still steadily left. "Damn, I didn't offend you, right?" Xiaohua put down his arm and looked around narcissistically. "I just didn't let you call I a loose cultivator and you have such a big temper. No need to say it's compared to Shui, it's just." Xiaohua thought of Fairy Hongxia again. "Disciples, the third round begins." A voice sounded in the hall. The voice was exactly the same as the voice in the illusion array. Xiaohua hurriedly ran into the ring of light, but just as he took a step, dozens and hundreds of scarlet-red threads flew out from the ring of light, landing on everyone's bodies. Then, the entire ring of light flashed, and everyone disappeared. It was another spacious hall. Xiaohua only felt his vision darken again. This time, he didn't dare to be careless and released his Buddhist sense early on. Unfortunately, at the same time, his eyes brightened and were filled with blue waves. About 100 feet in front of him, there was a female cultivator in azure clothes. She held a horsetail whisk in her hand and was looking at him with a pensive expression. Stage. When Xiaohua saw the other party's cultivation, he already had a plan in his mind. He cupped his hands and said, "Disciple Xiaohua greets senior sister." No need to be so polite. I am Li Xiao from Mythical Thunder Palace. Since junior brother has come to participate in the selection, you don't need to have any misgivings. I won't be lenient. Please. Li Xiao swung her horsetail whisk and a water tank-sized stream of water followed the movement of her horsetail whisk towards Xiaohua. Huh. This was the first time Xiaohua had seen such a method of using a magic tool. His eyes lit up and he waved his hand to take out the white dust as well. He activated his magic power and a yellow light rushed out from the white dust to meet the water flow. Rumble. There was a loud sound. The millions of particles in the light trembled and blocked the stream of water. Hee, junior brother Xiao really has some skills. As Li Xiao praised, she casually waved her horsetail whisk. That stream of water was immediately divided into 10 streams. Like water dragons, they circled in front of the earthen yellow brilliance, bypassed the obstruction of the horsetail whisk, and attacked Xiaohua from all directions. Ouch! Xiaohua immediately became flustered. He formed seals with his hands, and the speck of dust's brilliance blocked left and right. It ignored the front and missed the right side. Pang! That stream of water hit different parts of Xiao Hua's body. The power of the stream of water was extremely great, causing him to sway from side to side. The defensive yellow talisman's brilliance on his body also flickered again and again, almost extinguishing. Xiao Hua didn't dare to be negligent. He activated his magic power and his body immediately floated up to the sky. With a wave of his hand, he took out a defensive yellow talisman and threw it out. Then, he activated 6 fireball talismans with his Buddhist sense and attacked Li Xiaoxiao from 6 different directions. Strange, this fireball talisman, why did it miss? Seeing that the fireball talisman didn't hit her directly, Li Xiaoxiao was slightly stunned. However, the horsetail whisk in her hand didn't slow down at all. She swung her horsetail whisk and another stream of water was sent into the air. It also divided into 10 streams and attacked Xiao Hua's body. Rumble. There were 6 loud sounds. 6 fireball talismans exploded around Li Xiaoxiao's body. Haha, junior brother Xiao, you still need to practice your divine sense more. As soon as Li Xiaoxiao said this, she immediately felt the scorching heat waves produced by the fireball talisman rushing towards her from all directions. That heat wave actually sealed off her surroundings, leaving her with no room to escape. Ouch! Li Xiaoxiao was shocked. She glanced at Xiao Hua with some astonishment. She didn't think that Xiao Hua's 6 fireball talismans missed. That's right, Xiao Hua's 6 fireball talismans were in roughly the same position as the 6 formation plates of the Heavenly Fire formation. It was also a trick that Xiao Hua had just thought of. Now that he tried it a little, it actually worked. Under the huge wave of air, Li Xiaoxiao's protective brilliance was gradually annihilated. At this moment, in the dark green waves, a thin black light leisurely rose with the wind and waves. It was Xiao Hua's black iron needle. Although Li Xiaoxiao was in a perilous situation, she didn't panic. Just as her defenses were about to be breached under the pressure of the air wave, she flicked her horsetail whisk and a light blue water ripple appeared around her. The moment the water ripple appeared, the temperature around Li Xiaoxiao immediately dropped, washing away the heat wave from the fireball talisman without a trace. Alas, water restrains fire. My fireball talisman is precisely restrained by her magic. Seeing the water ripple appear, Xiao Hua knew that the black iron needle couldn't succeed. His Buddhist sense spread out and the black iron needle was drawn into the water ripple again. At this time, Xiao Hua had the white dust, illumination, and spirit crow fire net in his hands. Unfortunately, apart from the white dust, he didn't refine the spirit crow fire net and illumination seemed to only be able to look and not attack. Xiao Hua was somewhat at his wit's end. I can't take out the devil's spear tip, right? Xiao Hua secretly muttered, how about I rely on flying techniques to get rid of this Li Xiaoxiao? Just as he was thinking, he saw Li Xiaoxiao's horsetail whisk move again. This time, however, it was different. Unexpectedly, more than 10 thin streams of water separated from the water ripple, and the color was even deeper blue. It's not over yet. Xiao Hua urged the white dust. The earthen yellow brilliance didn't attack. It flew to the top of Xiao Hua's head and fell in all directions, wrapping Xiao Hua in it. Ha! Seeing Xiao Hua's defense, Li Xiaoxiao laughed tenderly. More than 10 streams of water hit the light curtain. Ka ka ka, a series of crisp sounds rang out and the light curtain actually began to freeze. Not good. Xiao Hua thought to himself. With a wave of his hand, he was about to withdraw the brilliance and fly far away. However, under Li Xiaoxiao's control, the water streams actually formed a sparkling ice ball around Xiao Hua, completely sealing Xiao Hua inside. Heh heh, you want to trap me just like this? Xiao Hua sneered. With a wave of his hand, a wisp of purple flame quietly appeared. However, that flame had only just appeared before it was extinguished. Xiao Hua smiled and said, it's just a battle of magical powers, nothing grand. Is there a need for this young master to reveal everything? Then, Xiao Hua's voice was heard, Senior sister, I beg for mercy. Senior sister is really resourceful, I admire you. Ha, it's nothing. You're just at the early stage of chi refinement level 12 and can already fight with I for so long. If you cultivate for a few more years, you won't necessarily be any worse than I when you reach the late stage of chi refinement level 12. Seeing this, Li Xiaoxiao swung her horsetail whisk and said, actually, you're still at a disadvantage in terms of magic tools. Wait until your cultivation increases in the future, you can ask your master to find a better magic tool. And, thank you for the reminder, senior sister. Good, take out your token. Li Xiaoxiao said, use your magic power and you'll be teleported to Thunder Temple. Yes, this disciple understands. Xiaohua took out his token. As soon as his magic power flowed, he was immediately teleported out. After that, Xiaohua didn't know how long he fought. Once again, he changed several hundred illusions. Each illusion was different. There were mountain ranges, caves, forests, slopes, and even the starry sky, the bottom of the sea, and magma. His opponents also changed several hundred times. There were men and women, handsome and ugly, but they were all in the 12th layer of chi refinement level. Moreover, more than half of them were in the 12th layer of chi refinement. These people had different magic tools and were good at different techniques. Fighting with these opponents really benefited Xiaohua a lot. Not only did his fighting experience soar, but his control over magic tools also improved a lot. Of course, in these several hundred battles, Xiaohua didn't completely reveal his true abilities. When facing opponents below the late 12th layer of chi refinement, Xiaohua used magic tools to fight. Generally, he was able to smoothly kill them. When facing opponents in the late 12th layer of chi refinement, if the opponent's magic tool was powerful, Xiaohua would use the flying technique to fight with them. His flying technique was so powerful that even foundation establishment cultivators couldn't catch up to him. He also didn't need to use all of his magic power. He only needed to make the opponent's magic tool unable to catch up to him. However, when it was the end of the selection, not only did Xiaohua encounter Sun Shu, he also encountered Wang Yunxiao, Yuan Bo, and Min Gu, who were in the late 12th layer of chi refinement. However, as it happened, he didn't encounter the disciple that cultivator spoke of. Of course, when Xiaohua saw Sun Shu, he didn't say anything. He directly took out his token and used his magic power to teleport out. Since the other party didn't give him any face, why should he ask? Xiaohua didn't know. Sun Shu stared at his back for a long time with an indescribable expression on his face. Chapter 1583. As for Yuan Bo and the others, although they were very polite on the surface, they were merciless in their attacks. When Xiaohua heard that this selection was about selecting disciples to go out and train, he immediately took out the token and took the initiative to teleport. Nonsense. It's not like I've reached the late stage of the 12th layer of the aura refining realm, what's the point of going out to train? He might as well hide in the formation in the cave and focus on improving his cultivation. Fortunately, not long after encountering Wang Yunxiao and the others, Xiaohua killed several mid-12th layer qi refining disciples and finally encountered the disciple that the foundation establishment cultivator mentioned. But when he saw the slightly short disciple in front of him, Xiaohua was stunned. It wasn't that this disciple was too handsome, nor was it that this disciple was too ugly. Rather, it was that this disciple's cultivation was actually at the early stage of the 12th level of qi refining. Of course, it was the initial stage that was close to the middle stage, not the initial stage that Xiaohua had just stepped into. Damn it, are you kidding me? Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. As it turned out, that foundation establishment cultivator wanted him to be this disciple's supporting character. Wasn't it just going out to train? Was there a need to make such a big move? With this kind of cultivation, even if he went out, wouldn't he be a wandering soul in the hands of others? He might as well cultivate more in the Imperial Thunder sect. Thinking about it, Xiaohua no longer hesitated. He activated his magic power and teleported himself out. Behind him, the disciple didn't have any shock on his face, it was as if everything was normal. After a few more rounds of selection, the disciples of Diligent Thunder Hall said that the results of the selection would be out in a few days. When the time came, the results would be sent to their respective masters and they were dismissed. However, Xiaohua didn't have any intention of going out to gain experience, so he naturally didn't care about the results. As soon as the disciple of Diligent Thunder Hall finished speaking, while the other disciples were still discussing, he took the lead and left Diligent Thunder Hall. Behind him, Sun Shu chased after him for a while, but was stopped by the other senior sisters. Only then did he stop with some hesitation. Xiaohua left the Thunder Immortal Peak and flew directly to the 10,000 Thunder Valley without saying a word. On the way, Xiaohua calculated with his fingers and couldn't help but sigh, "Damn it, it took me a month just to get someone to copy the lightning evasion technique. It's really not worth it. With this 1 month's worth of cultivation, I'm afraid my cultivation will improve a lot, right?" However, on second thought, Xiaohua rejoiced again. In this selection round, he had truly fought with 200 disciples for over 200 rounds. This wasn't something that could be cultivated through meditation. Hehe, I wonder if Master is still angry. It had already been a month. However, Master is busy with work. I'm afraid he's in the Myriad Thunder Valley again, right? Xiaohua thought as he looked at the Immortal's cave in front of him. During this month, Xiaohua had comprehended quite a bit of the lightning escape technique in the illusory array. The first level of the lightning escape technique, hibernating lightning, could be considered to have made some progress. Sure enough, there was no one in Helpless Immortal's cave. Helpless and Zhuo Minghui were both absent. Only Xiang Yang came out of the Immortal's cave when he heard Xiaohua's arrival. Hehe, eldest senior brother. Is Master still angry? Xiaohua asked as soon as they met. I don't know either. After Master left last time, he never came back. Master's wife also went out a few days ago. Xiang Yang shook his head and said, Little junior brother, why are you here today? Hehe, look. Xiaohua took out the jade slip and handed it over. His face was immensely proud of himself, looking like he was showing off. Xiang Yang was puzzled. He used his divine sense to take a look. His face was filled with shock as he hurriedly said, This is the most complete lightning escape technique of my Imperial Thunder Sect's Heavenly Thunder Palace. How did you get it? Eldest senior brother, it's naturally little brother's sect master's command token. Xiaohua kept him in suspense and didn't explain. Quickly return this thing. This Heavenly Thunder Palace's lightning escape technique is the origin of my Imperial Thunder Sect's lightning escape technique. Without the sect master's permission, you can't practice it. Speaking up to here, Xiang Yang came to a realization and said unhappily, This is probably the sect master's permission, right? Hehe, eldest senior brother actually also thought of it. Xiaohua touched his nose and said with a smile. You mischievous brat. Xiang Yang waved his hand and threw it to Xiaohua, saying, Master has always been thinking about this lightning escape technique for many years. When he sees this jade slip of yours, even if he's angry, it will immediately vanish like smoke in thin air. Saying so, Xiang Yang clapped his hand and took out a lightning sound transmitting talisman, about to send it out. Xiaohua, however, stopped him and said with a smile, Eldest senior brother, say, if we personally deliver it to Master, won't he be even more pleasantly surprised? That's true. Xiang Yang nodded, his face also looking eager to give it a try. He said with a smile, We'll go over right now. However, just as Xiaohua flew up into the air, Xiang Yang suddenly stopped. What's wrong, eldest senior brother? Xiaohua asked curiously. Inappropriate. Xiang Yang said inappropriate twice in a row, shaking his head and saying, The thunder of Myriad Thunder Valley is the most harmful to one's Tao. That year, it was precisely because of that I missed my foundation establishment. This is also the reason why Master didn't take you there all along. Hearing this, Xiaohua was even more curious. He said with a smile, Master has already passed on to little brother the lightning evasion technique of Myriad Thunder Valley. Every time little brother comes to Master's place, little brother uses it. Little brother isn't even afraid of silent thunder, so why would little brother be afraid of the thunder of Myriad Thunder Valley? Xiang Yang still shook his head. It's not the same, it's not the same. The reason why Myriad Thunder Valley is called Myriad Thunder Valley is because there are 10,000 kinds of heavenly thunder inside. It's the most embodiment of the might of heaven and earth. Every cultivator who goes to Myriad Thunder Valley is subdued by the might of heaven and earth. If they don't prepare in advance, their Tao heart or Tao foundation will definitely be damaged. You haven't built your foundation yet, so it's best if you don't go there. Xiaohua thought for a moment, then said in a low voice, how about, we don't go too close. You can just call Master out. And if Master sees me personally going there, even if he's angry, he'll be appeased. Seeing Xiang Yang still hesitating, Xiaohua patted his chest and said, eldest senior brother, if Master punishes me, little brother will bear all responsibility. Nonsense, Xiang Yang berated, waving his hand. Let's go. Haha, Xiaohua laughed as he followed Xiang Yang towards the direction of the 10,000 Thunder Valley. Although Xiang Yang's Immortal's Cave was already within the range of Myriad Thunder Valley, there was still an extremely long distance to Myriad Thunder Valley. With Xiang Yang's flying speed, they actually flew for more than an hour. Good heavens, so far. Xiaohua criticized inwardly. No wonder no one is willing to come. Moreover, there's soundless thunder all around here, who would come? Xiaohua secretly took out the command tablet. Sure enough, on the map of the command tablet, the surroundings were precisely dangerous. Rumble. Faintly, the sound of 10,000 horses galloping could be heard from afar. Immediately after, this sound was sharp and concentrated, as if knocking on the bottom of Xiaohua's heart. Little junior brother, be careful. Although Xiang Yang knew that Xiaohua knew how to avoid lightning, he still reminded him. Xiaohua urged his magic power, increasing the power of his lightning avoidance technique by more than 30%. Thus, that sound was still in his ears, but Xiaohua's heart was no longer heavy. After flying for a while, the sound of thunder became even stranger. One moment, it was waves crashing against the shore, the next moment, it was the sound of drums, and the next moment, it was some kind of hailstone falling to the ground. All kinds of thunder continuously entered his ears, and all kinds of chaos also stepped into Xiaohua's mind. His lightning avoidance technique gradually became ineffective, his hands and feet were somewhat limp, and his magic power was also difficult to sustain. Eldest senior brother. Xiaohua didn't dare to be too stubborn, and called out, little brother doesn't dare to go forward anymore. Good. Seeing this, Xiang Yang stopped flying, clapped his hand, and sent out a thunder sound transmitting talisman, waiting in midair. Seeing the sound transmitting talisman fly away, Xiaohua sat cross-legged in midair, closed his eyes, and pondered. Although he had just reached the early stage of the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm, in terms of magic power, he wasn't much worse than Xiang Yang. However, Xiang Yang was fine in this thunder, but he couldn't. The problem was very obvious, it was the difference between true Qi and true essence. It seems that I still have to hurry up and build my foundation. Xiaohua thought, secretly making up his mind. But at this moment, the silent thunder was like a tide that blotted out the sky and covered the earth, pressing down. At the same time, the thunder in his ears was also like a golden spear and armored horse rushing over. The two different types of thunder overlapped, making Xiaohua suddenly feel that his small boat, which was just barely cruising a moment ago, was in danger of being drowned in an instant. This is bad. Xiaohua was alarmed. He knew that if he lost his mind, his Tao heart would definitely be damaged, and his cultivation would definitely regress. The matter of building his foundation, Xiaohua didn't dare to be careless, and didn't have time to say anything. His figure suddenly rose, and he used the lightning escape technique, flying backwards with all his strength. Xiang Yang naturally sensed Xiaohua's strange movements, but he saw that Xiaohua actually used the lightning escape technique, and it was dormant lightning. That speed was also much faster than his own. He was even more astonished, and actually stared blankly on the spot. Only when Xiaohua's figure almost disappeared did Xiang Yang come to his senses. With an extremely complicated expression on his face, he used the flight technique to chase after him. Although Xiaohua used the lightning escape technique to fly in midair, he was still slower than the thunder by half a second. In the first instant, all the thunder drowned him out. Xiaohua's mind was suddenly in chaos. The thunder rushed into his ears, and rushed into his Naiwan palace. At this crucial moment, in Xiaohua's Naiwan palace, the traces of the Buddha's sarira actually sparkled under the impact of the thunder. At the same time, a faint sound of Sanskrit came from the head of the Buddha's sarira, covering up a lot of the thunder. Xiaohua's mind was immediately pulled out from the chaos. Motherfucker, this 10,000 Thunder Valley is indeed powerful. Xiaohua's figure didn't stop, and he thought with lingering fear. When the thunder in his ears quieted down, and his mind also stabilized, Xiaohua hurriedly checked his cultivation. Fortunately, there weren't any obscure signs. This Buddha's sarira. When Xiaohua saw the Buddha's sarira in his mind, he actually discovered that the extremely faint imprint, under the impact of the thunder, had become slightly heavier. In other words, the thunder in this 10,000 Thunder Valley was beneficial to the cultivation of the exquisite leaf scripture. Ha ha ha, Xiaohua's mind that had just calmed down, couldn't help but feel refreshed, and he secretly laughed. As the saying goes, the old man loses his horse, who knows if it's a blessing in disguise? The thunder in this 10,000 Thunder Valley is harmful to I's cultivation, but I didn't expect it to be a great supplement for the cultivation of the Buddha's sarira. Chapter 1584. Junior brother, behind Xiaohua, Xiang Yang also flew over. He shouted with concern, how are you now? Your cultivation. Xiaohua cupped his hands and said, thank you, senior brother. Fortunately, you discovered me early and I escaped quickly, so I didn't suffer any injuries. Xiang Yang heard and finally let out a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to speak, helpless divine sense swept over. Then, helpless figure quickly flew from afar. Seeing Xiaohua here, his face immediately became gloomy and he scolded, why are you here? Let's go. As he spoke, he waved his big sleeve and brought Xiaohua outside in the time it took to smoke a pack of cigarettes. Without waiting for his figure to land, Helpless turned his head and scolded, Xiang Yang, what kind of senior brother are you? Xiaohua is still young and doesn't know anything. How can you let him fool around and bring him here? Needless to say, Helpless already understood that it was Xiaohua who pestered Xiang Yang. Master, this is all Disciple's fault. Disciple. Xiaohua quickly explained. Shut up. Helpless said angrily, how do you know how dangerous this 10,000 Thunder Valley is? Master. Xiang Yang thought of Xiaohua's danger just now and his face also became embarrassed. He lowered his head and said, it's all Disciple's negligence, Master, look. Xiaohua didn't dare to let Helpless get angry and quickly took out the jade slip. Helpless also knew what Xiaohua meant. He fiercely glared at Xiang Yang and took the jade slip. After he finished reading, his face unconsciously showed a surprised expression. This lightning escape technique was granted to him by Master Qian Lei several years ago, but when this technique was placed in front of him, Helpless' heart couldn't help but beat wildly. After a while, Helpless calmed down. Xiaohua looked at his face and quickly said, Disciple wanted to give Master a surprise, so I dragged Senior Brother here. Senior Brother obviously didn't want to. Forget it. Helpless waved his hand and looked at him unhappily. You have a lot of ideas. Why didn't you cultivate in the eastern ridge and run around? Hee, master, didn't disciple listen to your orders and go to the Thunder Palace's technique pavilion to find a suitable technique? I thought about how I didn't get the lightning escape technique for master, so I quickly acted. Since the sect master has promised the cultivation technique to me, then whether I take it or not, the cultivation technique is still there and it belongs to me. What's the difference between taking it earlier or later? Helplessly, he said with a taut face. This. Xiaohua scratched his head helplessly when he heard the awkwardly spoken words. All right, all of you should go back as soon as possible. He waved his sleeve helplessly and said, although this place is far from the myriad Thunder Valley, there are still sounds of thunder. When Xiang Yang returns, tell Xiaohua the key to cultivating the 12th layer of refining qi. As he spoke, he flew away without the slightest hesitation. Sigh, really? Master doesn't even say any warm words. Xiaohua waited helplessly until they were far away before he grumbled, to think that I ran so far with eldest martial brother. Let's go. Xiang Yang's face remained calm when he saw this. It was as if he was used to this. He said indifferently as his body floated in the air. All right. Xiaohua curled his lips and followed behind Xiang Yang. Seeing Xiaohua obediently use ordinary flying techniques to follow behind him, Xiang Yang's heart was filled with complex feelings. He clearly reminded himself not to be jealous of this junior martial brother, but his heart was still somewhat uncomfortable. That's right, hibernating lightning. That was the first layer of the Imperial Thunder Sect's lightning evasion technique. Xiang Yang had already known about it when he entered the Imperial Thunder Sect. It was something that couldn't be cultivated without a thunder attribute physique. Coincidentally, he also had a thunder attribute. However, he didn't enter the Heavenly Thunder Palace and could only cultivate the lightning evasion technique of the Seismic Thunder Palace. However, Xiang Yang had cultivated the incomplete lightning evasion technique of the Seismic Thunder Palace for a long time, but he still wasn't proficient in it. Normally, when he used it, it wasn't as fast as ordinary flying techniques. Of course, he also understood that even with his aptitude, he was only at the entry level of the first layer of Seismic Thunder Palace's lightning evasion. However, compared to the many disciples who couldn't cultivate the lightning evasion or couldn't enter the entry level, he was already considered pretty good. But, when he saw Xiaohua use hibernating lightning, this little bit of vanity was instantly struck flying into pieces. The lightning evasion technique was something that only Foundation establishment disciples could cultivate. Moreover, it also required a thunder attribute physique to cultivate. Why, didn't it work on this little junior brother of his? Xiang Yang could only smile bitterly. He really didn't want to ask Xiaohua another word. Not only because this was Xiaohua's privacy, but also because this was the reason why Xiang Yang felt embarrassed to be Xiaohua's eldest senior brother. An incompetent eldest senior brother. Previously, he had always wanted to properly cultivate Xiaohua to make up for the regret in his master's heart. At this time, Xiang Yang's heart was somewhat unbalanced. When he returned to the Immortal's Cave, Xiang Yang was different from his usual self. He was originally a man of few words, but now he was even more stingy with his words. Even when Xiaohua asked him some questions about cultivation, he was somewhat unwilling to say more. Xiaohua thought that Xiang Yang had been reprimanded by his master and was in a bad mood, so he didn't say anything more. He bowed to Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian and took his leave, returning to the eastern ridge. Xiaohua didn't know about Xiang Yang's abnormality, but how could Yan Qinglian not know? After Xiaohua left, she carefully inquired. At first, Xiang Yang didn't want to say, but when he saw the concern in Yan Qinglian's eyes, he finally let out a long sigh and spoke of the jealousy in his heart. That jealousy seemed to be a malignant tumor. When he spoke of it, Xiang Yang's heart relaxed a lot. What? Little junior brother, can actually use the lightning evasion? And it's the hibernating thunder evasion? When Yan Qinglian heard this, she was also extremely shocked. As a middle-stage Foundation establishment disciple of the mythical Thunder Palace, how could she not know the importance and difficulty of the hibernating thunder evasion? Can you be sure you didn't see wrongly? Yan Qinglian asked, half believing and half doubting. Xiang Yang smiled bitterly. This husband's cultivation may not be high, but I still have a discerning eye. Moreover, little junior brother also gave the Heavenly Thunder Palace's lightning evasion to master, so this husband's previous bit of suspicion also vanished like smoke in thin air. Naturally, I can be sure. Haha. Although Yan Qinglian's face was still somewhat shocked, a smile appeared on her face. Since Xiaohua's aptitude is so outstanding, you should be happy that our myriad Thunder Valley has such an outstanding disciple. Why are you jealous of Xiaohua? Xiang Yang shook his head. This husband doesn't even know in his heart. It feels like, a child who originally needed my protection suddenly doesn't need me anymore. I don't have the slightest bit of value in my existence. My heart feels empty. I really hope he doesn't have this kind of magical ability and still needs this husband's guidance. Husband. Yan Qinglian walked forward and used her arm to hold Xiang Yang. The two of them slowly walked out of the cave. Yan Qinglian looked at the mountain forest in front of the cave and saw the pine trees billowing in the wind. She said with a smile, husband has always been under master's majesty and has almost never had a chance to breathe. Coupled with the fact that you haven't been able to make a breakthrough in your cultivation for a long time, the confidence in your heart, I'm afraid, has decreased a lot. Now that you finally have Xiaohua to give you guidance, you can be considered to have found some of the feeling of being an elder. Now that you've discovered that Xiaohua doesn't need your guidance at all in some areas, it's like he suddenly fell from the clouds to the ground. Naturally, there's a contrast. Xiang Yang looked at the mottled mountain forest under the sunlight and didn't answer. Yan Qinglian turned her head to look at his expression and said again, in fact, not to mention our thunderous palace, even in mythical Thunder Palace, Gen Thunder Palace, and the other 7 great Thunder Palaces, there are more than 1,000 young disciples with better aptitudes than you. You're not jealous of others, but why are you jealous of your little junior martial brother? Normally, so many senior martial brothers laugh at you, but your heart is as calm as water, unperturbed by great waves. Why, do you feel uncomfortable when the people close to you are stronger than you? If you treat little junior martial brother as our nephew, do you want him to be at the early stage of Foundation establishment like you for the rest of his life? Don't want him to surpass you? Yan Qinglian struck while the iron was hot. The pupil surpasses the master. This is what you said. If you don't have a broad mind, how can you teach Xiang Zhili, who's in the deification realm? Ha ha ha. Hearing this, Xiang Yang raised his head and laughed heartily. Turn a blind eye, turn a blind eye. People all hide their heads in their bosoms and pretend they don't see. Only this way can their hearts be magnanimous. But is this really magnanimous? As soon as I raise my head and look at the affairs around me, my heart immediately loses balance. I boast that I've already sharpened myself to be smooth, but there's still a little in my heart. If it weren't for my wife's reminder, how could I untie this knot in my heart? It's fine as long as my husband understands. Yan Qinglian said with a smile, with this little junior martial brother in my 10,000 Thunder Valley, do you think we'll be afraid of being bullied by others in the future? Ha ha ha. Xiang Yang pulled her hand and turned around to walk back to his immortal's cave. He said in a low voice, who cares about Xiaohua? My family's Xiang Zhili is the true pillar of 10,000 Thunder Valley. A shy expression appeared on Yan Qinglian's face, and she followed Xiang Yang back to his immortal's cave. At this moment, Xiaohua was flying in the air. He was also bewildered. He didn't understand why his eldest martial brother was acting so strangely. After returning to Eastern Ridge and opening the formation, Xiaohua immediately returned to his pill room and warmed up the pill furnace, preparing to concoct soul-gathering pills and cultivate to the 12th layer of the aura-refining realm. According to Xiao Hua's thoughts, without the fire-type spiritual energy of the fire essence flame crystal, it took about 2 years to go from the middle of the 11th layer of the aura refining realm to the 12th layer of the aura refining realm. Wouldn't it take him 5 to 10 years to go from the early stage of the 12th layer of the aura refining realm to the peak of the 12th layer of the aura refining realm? Moreover, there was still the legendary Great Circle of the aura refining realm. Xiao Hua also wanted to solidify his aura refining foundation. When he thought about how he still had to cultivate for 10 years before he could step into the foundation establishment realm and seek revenge on Jiang Jiantong of the 100 Herbs Gate, Xiao Hua really didn't want to waste a single moment. He only wanted to close his eyes and meditate, quickly finishing these 10 years of hard work. However, things often didn't go according to one's wishes. On the 3rd day after Xiao Hua warmed up the pill furnace and threw the medicinal herbs inside, a messaging talisman was sent to the Eastern Ridges Formation. Xiao Hua opened the formation in a very bad mood. The 1,000-mile messaging talisman flew to Xiao Hua's eyes like a red-crowned crane. When Xiao Hua clenched his hand, Shui Shui's voice came from inside. Xiao Hua, I heard from Senior Sun Shu that you also participated in the selection of the Feather Immortal Assembly. How were your results? Do you have the qualifications to go out and gain experience? Chapter 1585. Also, Xiao Hua, how did you cultivate? I heard from Senior Martial Sister Sun Shu that you're already in the early stage of the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm. It's only been a year, and you've already advanced. It seems that the day of foundation establishment is just around the corner. You have to wait for me to build our foundation together. I don't want to call you senior in front of you. Nonsense, your master is a golden core cultivator. I'm already very grateful that I don't call you senior according to seniority. Who dares to call you senior? Xiao Hua smiled and also took out a 1,000-mile sound-transmitting talisman. After saying a few words, he waved his hand and opened the formation, letting the sound-transmitting talisman fly away. However, just as Xiao Hua had just sat down and had yet to strike the spell on the pill furnace, there was movement in the array again. Damn it, are you done yet? Xiao Hua got up in anger and opened the formation. Sure enough, another sound-transmitting talisman flew over. Who's so bored? Xiao Hua impatiently pinched the sound-transmitting talisman with his hand. Unexpectedly, the sound-transmitting talisman was Helplessness's voice. Come here. Ah. Xiao Hua finally noticed that this sound-transmitting talisman was a lightning sound-transmitting talisman. It was the sound-transmitting talisman that Helplessness and Xiang Yang often used. Master, what are you calling me for? Don't you know that my pill furnace just started melting? Xiao Hua muttered to himself in a very bad mood. Then, he looked at the medicinal liquid inside the pill furnace and clapped his hand. The formation flag of the Heavenly Fire Formation was held in his hand. He activated the magic power in his hand and waved the formation flag, opening the formation in the pill room. A layer of ripples appeared in the air and quickly covered the pill furnace, not leaving a trace behind. Soon after, Xiao Hua put away the formation flag and opened the formation, flying straight to the Myriad Thunder Valley. When he arrived at Helplessness's cave in the Myriad Thunder Valley, Helplessness and the other 3 were all there. The 4 people's 8 eyes had been staring at Xiao Hua since he entered the cave. Was it strange? Was it a question? Was it gratification? Or was it a surprise? That Master's wife. Xiao Hua's eyes turned, not knowing what to do with his hands and feet. He asked Zhuo Minghui for help. What's the matter? Hee, you're very good. Xiao Hua, Master's wife is very gratified. Zhuo Minghui said with a smile. Xiao Hua turned his head to look at his helplessly squinted eyes, as if he had just finished drinking the spirit wine. He smiled apologetically and said, Master, why did you call this disciple over? Isn't your disciple cultivating right now? Time is spirit stones, don't delay this disciple's foundation building. Helplessly curling his lips, he clapped his hands and said, Minghui, pour your husband another cup of wine. Husband, you've already drunk 3 cups today. I'm afraid it's not suitable for you to drink anymore, right? Although Zhuo Minghui said this, she still got up and went to the inner mansion. Eldest senior brother, what exactly is going on? Xiao Hua turned his head and looked at Xiang Yang. At this time, Xiang Yang was no longer as strange as before, but there was still a complicated expression in his eyes. He stared at Xiao Hua and said, Little junior brother, master really didn't choose the wrong person. Fine, Xiao Hua didn't ask any more questions. He lowered his eyebrows and sat there, quietly listening to the helpless instructions. A moment later, Zhuo Minghui brought the spirit wine over. She waved her hand helplessly, and a trace of dark green wine flew into the jade cup. She raised her head and drank it. After a long while, a dark red color appeared on her face. She let out a long sigh and said, Xiao Hua, you've done a good thing. You've really made my myriad Thunder Valley proud. A good thing? Xiao Hua was slightly stunned. Didn't I just give Master the lightning evasion technique? But when he thought of the lightning evasion technique, Xiao Hua immediately understood. The Feather Immortal Assembly. Of course, it must be that the disciple who participated in the Feather Immortal Assembly had a result, so she had no choice but to say this. However, when he thought of going out to gain experience, Xiao Hua's helplessly suspended mood immediately fell to the bottom. He didn't want to leave the stable cultivation environment of the Eastern Mountain Range and become a loose cultivator again. Master. Just as Xiao Hua was about to speak, he sighed helplessly and said, It's all my fault for being busy with the matters of the myriad Thunder Valley and not thinking about you. It's my fault. Fortunately, you were a loose cultivator before, so you're quite opinionated. In the future, you can make your own decisions about these matters. Ha, Master, you don't need to think too much. Little junior brother is still in Zhenlei Palace right now, so there are many things that he can't discuss with you in time. Besides, the disciples who participated in the Feather Immortal Assembly were mainly at the late stage of the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm. Xiao Hua just broke through to the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm, so how could he participate? That. Master. Xiao Hua couldn't help but interrupt, how did you know that I participated in the selection? Did the result come out? Ha, of course. Helplessly laughing, he clapped his hands and took out a red jade slip. He said with a smile, This morning, a disciple of the Thunderous Palace sent a message, saying that there was something important. I thought it was something important, but it was actually the good news that you passed the selection. I passed the selection. Xiao Hua was stunned. He shook his head like a rattle drum and said, This is somewhat impossible. Take a look at it. Helplessly waved his hand and the jade slip flew to Xiao Hua's eyes. Xiao Hua took it and read it with his divine sense. Of course, it said clearly, Thunderous Palace disciple Xiao Hua obtained the 20th place in the Battle of Magical Powers in Zhenlei Palace. He passed the selection and obtained the right to participate in the Feather Immortal Assembly. In 10 months, we will meet at Zhenlei Palace's Spring Thunder Palace to participate in the Feather Immortal Assembly. Damn it, 20th place. I seem to have heard Yuan Bo and the others say that only the 20th place will go. I am actually the last one. Xiao Hua muttered in his heart. He returned the jade slip to helplessly and shook his head again like a rattledrum. He said, I'm not going. Why would I participate in the Feather Immortal Assembly for no reason? If I have the time, I might as well cultivate for a few more days in the Eastern Ridge. I'm not going. You dare. Helplessly was furious. He stood up and said, If you don't want to go, why didn't you discuss it with me or your senior brother? You decided on your own and went to sign up. Fortunately, you didn't lose face in the Myriad Thunder Valley and passed the selection. You're not going again. What are you trying to do? Xiao Hua felt wronged. He said, Master, I also don't know what the selection is about. Moreover, I just want to return a favor. Zhuo Minghui was careful. She said with a smile, Husband, Xiaohua wants to cultivate wholeheartedly. Isn't it because he wants to build his foundation earlier? That's right. However, it seems that Xiaohua still has something to say. Listen to it. Speak, speak, speak. Helplessly sat down and waved his hand. He looked as if he expected better from Xiaohua. Therefore, Xiaohua told him the whole story. In the end, he said, I just wanted to play with them. I just wanted to lose to that disciple in the end. I never thought. Oh, I don't even know what the selection is about. Oh, so that's how it is. Helplessly's face became gloomy. He looked at the cave abode for a while and said in a deep voice, It seems that you're just going to serve as a foil to the others. Yes, I know. I asked for their help, so I naturally have to repay them. Xiaohua said hurriedly. I know. Helplessly waved his hand again unhappily. I just don't know if that disciple. Xiang Yang said in a low voice. Helplessly glared at him and said, Don't worry. Since they want to handle this matter, they'll naturally make the appropriate arrangements. Even Xiaohua, an early-stage 12th layer qi refining disciple, was used as a foil. How many foils are there? Yes, when I was fighting, I saw many mid-stage 12th layer qi refining disciples. Xiaohua said hurriedly. Helplessly tilted his head and looked at Xiaohua. He asked curiously, how did you pass? Of course I relied on flying. Xiaohua said without hesitation. Damn it. You're really losing face for my 10,000 Thunder Valley. Helplessly cursed. He naturally knew that Xiaohua could fly very fast. Even the early-stage foundation establishment disciples of Splendid Sect, Qiqiao Sect, and Xuanyan School couldn't catch up to him. Those peak stage 12th layer qi refining disciples of Imperial Thunder's sect were nothing. What can I do? I just have to wait to lose to that disciple. As for the others, they can go. Xiaohua said with a shrug. Then. Little junior brother, are you going or not? Xiang Yang asked. Not going. Going. Xiaohua and helplessly answered at the same time. Damn it, when other people accept a disciple, they are all respectful and reverent to their master. How can my disciple be so disobedient? Do you think that I won't dare to teach you a lesson because you have the sect master's token? Helplessly angrily waved his hand. The spiritual energy in the cave suddenly changed, husband. Zhuo Minghui's expression was also normal. She also waved her hand and blocked Helplessly's magic. She said in a deep voice, Talk to the child properly. You're always so reckless. You're not satisfied with Xiang Yang being honest and obedient. You're not satisfied with Xiaohua having his own ideas. What kind of disciple do you want to accept? Seeing helplessly angry, Xiaohua was also afraid. Seeing his master's wife speaking up for him, his heart felt warm. Helplessly's expression changed. He looked at Zhuo Minghui and sat down again. He said somewhat dejectedly, Forget it, forget it. If you don't want to go, then so be it. My 10,000 Thunder Valley hasn't participated in the Feather Immortal Assembly for many years. Back then. Forget it, let's not talk about it. I'll talk about it for you. Zhuo Minghui said with a smile, Back then, didn't you take it to heart because you got the 21st place and didn't have the qualifications to participate? Helplessly embarrassedly said, I thought that you could let your master rest in peace in the underworld. You just threw away your responsibility like this. Master. Xiaohua felt wronged and said, How could I know so much? Junior brother, I also participated in this selection back then. Unfortunately, I only got the 40th place. The difference is too great. Xiang Yang also said with a smile, you're lucky to get this opportunity. You can't give it up. Senior brother, you've been talking for a long time. Isn't it just going out to gain experience? I've been wandering outside for a long time. I really don't want to tire myself out. Xiaohua said with a bitter smile. Hee, husband, this is also your fault. You didn't tell Xiaohua the origin of this feather immortal assembly. Xiaohua will naturally have other ideas. Zhuo Minghui said with a smile. Helplessly spreading his hands, he said, how can you blame me? I thought that he signed up for the feather immortal assembly himself. Do you still need me to say it? Xiang Yang, tell your junior brother about the feather immortal assembly. Yes, I understand. Following his master's order, Xiang Yang told Xiaohua about the feather immortal assembly. As it turned out, there were two countries around the country of Xi that were similar to the country of Xi. They were the country of Lian and the country of Meng. There were several cultivation sects in each of the three countries. In order to promote the communication between the cultivation sects of the three countries and provide opportunities for the disciples of the 12th Qi refining stage to gain experience, the three countries agreed to hold a feather immortal assembly once every 10 years. The so-called feather immortal assembly meant that the cultivators of the 12th Qi refining stage would become real cultivators. Because it was a matter between the three countries, it also affected the reputation of each sect. Every time, the disciples who participated in the feather immortal assembly would be selected in advance. They would strive to defeat their opponents in the competition. Yes, it would be best if they could build their foundation during the feather immortal assembly. On one hand, it would show the strength of the sect. On the other hand, it would show the importance of the feather immortal assembly. Of course, because each sect valued the feather immortal assembly, the disciples of each sect would be honored to be able to participate in the feather immortal assembly. If they could win a certain reputation during the feather immortal assembly, they would naturally be rewarded handsomely when they returned to their sects. When he heard that they would be handsomely rewarded, Xiaohua's eyes lit up. However, when he thought about it, he realized that the disciples who were going to participate in the feather immortal assembly were all in the late Qi refining stage. Which one of them didn't have a profound cultivation? He lost interest again. Eldest senior brother, I'm a rogue cultivator. There are many things that I don't know. Now, I have a question that I want to ask. I don't know if it's a blessing. Xiaohua said after thinking for a while. There's no harm in asking. If I can't answer, there's still master. Xiang Yang said with a smile. Oh, it's like this. I used to think that the country of Xi was the Dawn Rain continent, and the Dawn Rain continent was the country of Xi. Now, I heard from you that there are also the country of Meng and the country of Lian. Then, are there other countries? This Dawn Rain continent, what is it like? Xiaohua used to only think about escaping and cultivation. He never thought about these things in detail. Even when he heard that Li Zongbao came from the Utopia faction of the country of Lian, he didn't think much of it. Now that he really had a backer, he had the intention to investigate the specific situation of the Dawn Rain continent. Actually, youngest junior brother, your cultivation is too low now. It's not necessarily beneficial to know too much. When I was in the family when I was young, the patriarch never told me much. I only slowly learned about it after I came to the Imperial Thunder sect. Xiaohua looked at him helplessly and said with a smile, Master, do you think I should know? He lowered his head helplessly and thought for a moment. Then he looked up at Zhuo Minghui. Zhuo Minghui also frowned slightly and said in a low voice, Xiaohua used to be a rogue cultivator. He has experienced a lot of difficulties. He should be able to accept it. Moreover, it's inevitable that he will go out and travel in the future. It's good for him to know something earlier, right? Don't let him be at a loss when he encounters some unexpected things. He'll suffer a great loss. Alas, okay. He waved his hand helplessly and said tirelessly. The more Xiaohua listened, the more he frowned. The more he listened, the more fascinated he became. He really didn't expect that he was a frog at the bottom of a well. He only saw the country of Shi. He didn't expect that outside of the country of Shi, on the vast and boundless Dawn Rain continent, there was such a colorful world of cultivation. Chapter 1586. It turned out that the country of Shi wasn't the only country on the Xiaoyu continent. The neighboring countries that had good relations with the country of Shi were the country of Lian and the country of Meng. The territories of these three countries were intertwined with each other and they had a lot of interactions with each other. To the west of the country of Shi was the country of Heng. Heng's territory was semicircular and bordered the country of Shi, the country of Meng, and the country of Lian. Among them, the country of Shi, the country of Lian, and the country of Meng focused on the cultivation of Dao. Magic tools and treasures were only used as support and were only used in battle. The country of Heng focused on the cultivation of tools. That is, they relied on external objects such as flying swords, magic tools, or spirit beasts while cultivating. Because people who walked different paths couldn't work together, although the country of Shi and the other two countries all cultivated Dao, they didn't interact much and even had conflicts most of the time. The reason why the country of Heng focused on tools was because the country of Heng's west and south borders were the millions of Meng mountains. The millions of Meng mountains were different from the four cultivation countries. In the four cultivation countries, aside from secular people, there were only cultivators. However, in the millions of Meng mountains, there were no cultivators. Aside from the barbaric mountain people, there were only soul cultivators, also known as soul cultivators. As the name suggests, these soul cultivators cultivated the soul, which was completely different from cultivators. The millions of Meng mountains were extremely vast and there were countless dangerous mountains and rivers. The living environment was extremely harsh and the original mountain people were in a semi-civilized state, so soul cultivators had a hard time developing. Therefore, soul cultivators often harassed the country of Heng, wanting to expand to the eastern cultivation countries. It was because of this that the cultivators of the country of Heng had to cultivate fighting techniques. Every cultivator of the country of Heng was a warrior. To resist the attacks of soul cultivators. Of course, aside from the four cultivation nations and the millions of soul cultivators in Meng mountains, there was a vast desert to the north of the Xiaoyu continent. North of the desert was the land of the far north. To the east of the Meng kingdom and the Lian kingdom was the sea of heaven and earth. It was vast and boundless and filled with countless dangers. Not even cultivators dared to venture there, let alone mortals. To the east of the millions of Meng mountains was a huge cultivation alliance called the Lili Alliance. The cultivation level of the Lili Alliance was higher than the four cultivation countries. Not only did the cultivation sects have a lot of high-level cultivators, but the strength of the cultivation sects. Of course, there were many rogue cultivators in the Defeat Oak Alliance. The status of rogue cultivators was also higher than the status of rogue cultivators in the four cultivation countries. Moreover, it was said that the Defeat Valley Alliance had all kinds of cultivation techniques, unlike the country of Shi which was so poor. Why was it said? That was because there were millions of Meng mountains between the Defeat League and the four nations of cultivators. This region was too dangerous, and without powerful cultivators, it was not easy to pass through it. Cultivators from the four nations of cultivators would not take the risk to go to the Defeat League, because there was a high possibility of losing their lives there. And those who had the ability to pass through the Defeat League had no reason to come to a backward place like the country of Shi. As for the teleportation formation, because the distance was too far, ordinary teleportation formations couldn't reach it. The four cultivation countries didn't have the power to set up such a formation, and the Failure Alliance wouldn't spend the effort to do such a thing. Helplessly and slowly, Xiaohua listened with fascination. Unexpectedly, there was a place where rogue cultivators could sit on equal footing with cultivator sections. Unexpectedly, there was a place where cultivators didn't have to worry about cultivation methods. Unexpectedly, there were soul cultivators, weapon cultivators, sword cultivators, and so on. It was truly miraculous. That's right, Master, what is a charm? Is it the same as that soul cultivator? After helplessly finished his simple explanation, the cave was silent. Xiaohua thought for a moment and asked. Charm? Helplessly slightly frowned and shook his head. It is said that this is a cultivation method left behind from ancient times. Master also doesn't understand it, but soul cultivators are just a general term for cultivating the soul. A human being has 3 souls and 6 spirits. It is said that there are 3 souls, 1 is the heaven soul, 2 is the earth soul, and 3 is the life soul. There are 7 spirits, 1 is the heaven rush, 2 is the spirit wisdom, 3 is the chi, 4 is the strength, 5 is the core, 6 is the essence, and 7 is the hero. Every soul and every spirit can be cultivated, but as for how to cultivate, Master doesn't know. In addition, soul cultivators also include spirit cultivators, corpse cultivators, ghost cultivators, yin cultivators, and so on. However, these are all rumors, Master also heard them from hearsay. Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly thought of something and asked, then, which cultivation sect is the Buddhist sect? Buddhist sect? Which cultivation sect? Helplessly stared blankly, the expression on his face tightened, and he said in a low voice, Xiaohua, how do you know about this Buddhist sect? Hearing this, Xiaohua's heart thumped, and he hurriedly smiled apologetically. Disciple only heard people casually mention it before. Disciple also doesn't know where it is. Hee, husband, don't be nervous. Didn't you hear Xiaohua ask which cultivation sect is the Buddhist sect? How would he know those things? That's true. Helplessly nodding, he thought for a moment and said, Xiaohua, remember, the Buddhist sect isn't a cultivation sect. As for what it is, don't ask too much. Just pretend that you've never heard of this name. Yes, disciple understands. Xiaohua hurriedly nodded like a chick pecking at rice. How could he dare to say that he cultivated the Buddhist Saraira? In order to change the topic, Xiaohua asked again. Disciple still has a question. Helplessly looking at him, Xiaohua rolled his eyes. You have a lot more questions than your eldest senior brother. Hee, disciple's knowledge is shallow. Of course I have to ask. Xiaohua smiled. My Imperial Thunder sect also has a method to refine magic tools. We also use magic tools. Why, is it different from Huan country's magic tool cultivators? That's very simple. Helplessly smiling, Xiaohua said, you've seen flying sword talismans, right? Xiaohua nodded. Disciple has. Speaking, he waved his hand and took out a flying sword talisman. And, then have you also seen flying swords? Helplessly continuing to ask. Disciple had the fortune to see it once. Xiaohua thought of Li Zongbao's flying sword. And, then what do you think is the difference between flying sword talismans and flying swords? Helplessly shaking his head. Xiaohua smiled. Although disciple doesn't understand flying swords, flying sword talismans and flying swords are still very far apart. How can disciple not know? That flying sword talisman is just a yellow talisman. How can it compare to flying swords? And, since you know the difference, then sword cultivators' flying swords compared to our flying swords is just this difference. Helplessly smiling. Ah. The difference is that big? Xiaohua was flabbergasted. Sword cultivators' flying swords are planted in their dantian from the qi refinement stage. They use their own blood essence to carefully cultivate it and connect their primordial spirit with the flying sword. That flying sword is like a baby. It will also slowly grow along with the sword cultivator's cultivation. Our flying swords can only be used for attack. Perhaps it can be used for simple flight. In addition, there can also be flying magic tools and attacking magic tools. But a sword cultivator's flying sword is everything. Using the body as a sword to fly, imperial sword technique and so on. It can't be, this flying sword can still grow. Xiaohua almost didn't believe it. Magic tools are flying swords. Magic treasures are flying swords. Ha ha ha, junior brother, there are many strange things in the cultivation world. Flying swords are still relatively orthodox. In our 3 cultivation countries, there are also sects that specialize in using flying swords. It is said that there are also natal magic treasures that are circular and duplicated. And I also heard that there are some beast cultivators from the Million Meng Mountains who use spirit beasts as their natal magic treasures to increase their cultivation. Don't you think it's strange? Beast cultivators? Xiaohua was stunned. He couldn't help but think of his dragonization art. The cultivation of this dragonization art. I wonder if it's a beast cultivator. Husband, you're absolutely right. Yan Qinglian hadn't said anything all this time. At this time, she echoed, there are also powerful people in our 3 cultivation countries. Although they disdain to cultivate beast cultivators, they also used the principles within as a reference. They introduced beast blood and beast skin into talisman crafting techniques, thus creating the so-called beast spirit talismans. Giant spirit beast talismans, sky-shaking flying talismans and so on are all used to change the cultivator's bloodline and borrow the power of spirit beasts. Xiaohua secretly nodded. Thinking of Ken Mingwei's transformation, he said inwardly, so that's how it is. Alright, Xiaohua, Master and your eldest senior brother have already explained the matter of the Feather Immortal Assembly to you clearly. Being able to participate in this Feather Immortal Assembly is a kind of honor. Not only can you cultivate, but you can also increase your experience. You can also make friends with other cultivators in the 3 cultivation countries, which is greatly beneficial for your future cultivation. Just now, before you came, I already asked the manager of the Thunder Palace. Apart from you, only that bastard Jin Yu's disciple called Wang Yunxiao has obtained the qualifications to participate. If you don't go. At this point, Xiaohua shut his mouth and didn't say anything else. At this time, Xiaohua finally understood why Xiaohua was so angry that he didn't participate in the Feather Immortal Assembly. It was because of Jin Yu. That late-stage foundation establishment cultivator who didn't get along with Xiaohua, that guy who snatched Wang Yunxiao away. At this time, Zhuo Minghui also said, perhaps Xiaohua still doesn't know that because every disciple who participates in the Feather Immortal Assembly represents the Thunder Palace, every disciple has the opportunity to go to their respective Thunder Palace's treasure house to choose a magic tool of some use when they obtain the qualifications to participate. Ah! When Xiaohua heard this, his eyes lit up. Forget it. Since Xiaohua has already decided not to go, then there's no need to go. Xiaohua shook his head and said, my Thunder Palace doesn't have any good magic tools, but they were all left behind by seniors. It's better to just leave them there. Magic tools aren't much. The key is cultivation. If Xiaohua's cultivation quickly increased to foundation establishment, how many magic tools can he use? We can't lose the long term because of short-term benefits. Husband, you're right. We can't delay Xiaohua's cultivation for the sake of the 10,000 Thunder Valley's reputation. Zhuo Minghui nodded with a smile. We can't. Master, that's the Thunder Palace's magic tool. In the past, I've always wanted to obtain it. Today, junior brother finally has a chance. Xiang Yang was anxious and said hurriedly. Beside him, Yan Qinglian pursed her lips and kept shooting glances at Xiang Yang. If it weren't for the fact that Xiaohua was here, she would have already transmitted her voice to Xiang Yang. Seeing that the cute senior brother had brought the latter over, how could Xiaohua let it go? He immediately stood up and said in a loud voice, thank you for your guidance, senior brother. Since it's for the sake of the 10,000 Thunder Valley's reputation, junior brother will definitely fight for master, senior brother, and martial ancestor even if my cultivation is delayed. Chapter 1587. Please don't make things difficult for me. He asked helplessly. I'm not making things difficult, I'm not making things difficult. Xiaohua patted his chest. I'm not making things difficult. He asked helplessly again. I'm not making things difficult, I'm not making things difficult. Xiaohua's face was full of smiles. He seemed to be very happy. Humph, he snorted helplessly and said, even if you go, won't you just run away? Won't you still embarrass my 10,000 Thunder Valley? Xiaohua said with a smile, Master, isn't the purpose of the Feather Immortal Assembly held by the 3 cultivation countries? It's enough for me to participate in this assembly. Is there a need to fuss about the ranking? That thing can't be eaten or drunk. Since junior brother passed the qualification test, he must have some confidence. He's only in the early stage of the 12th layer of the aura refining realm. It's normal for him to lose to anyone. Xiang Yang said. Do you think I don't know? He glared helplessly at Xiang Yang. This kid used to be a loose cultivator. What kind of sinister methods hasn't he seen? To be able to take the 20th place among more than 200 late-stage aura refining disciples, he naturally has some tricks up his sleeve. Xiang Yang, you and Xiaohua practice a few moves, weigh his weight. There's no need. Master, junior brother just reached the 12th layer of the aura refining realm. Xiang Yang was in a difficult position. After all, aura refining cultivators were fundamentally different from foundation building cultivators. What are you afraid of? Can you still injure Xiaohua? He said coldly and helplessly. Xiaohua was also unhappy. He smiled apologetically and said, Master, there's no need for a spar. My cultivation is shallow, and I haven't refined the magic tool Master's wife gave me. I really can't compete with senior brother. He glared helplessly at him and said, I told you to spar, so just spar. Where's all this nonsense coming from? Xiang Yang and Xiaohua were helpless. They could only walk out of the cave. The 5 of them all flew into the air. They had no choice but to stand 1,000 feet away and watch from afar. Xiang Yang glanced at Xiaohua and said with a smile, Junior brother, if you have any tricks up your sleeve, use them all. Your cultivation can't injure me. Moreover, only if you use all your skills will Master be able to teach you more. This is a rare opportunity. Xiaohua originally wanted to hold back, but after hearing Xiang Yang's words, he understood in his heart that although Xiang Yang was only an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator, he had been in the foundation establishment realm for a long time. His magic power was not something he could compare with. If they really fought, he wouldn't even be able to protect himself, so how could he hold back? That would be a laughingstock. Okay, little brother understands. Xiaohua cupped his hands and said. Xiang Yang smiled and cupped his hands. Junior martial brother, please. Elder first, eldest senior brother, please. Xiaohua said with a smile. Or. Xiang Yang was about to decline. Suddenly, he saw that Xiaohua's posture of cupping his hands didn't change, but his entire body suddenly crashed into him. Eh? What are you doing? Xiang Yang was slightly stunned. In the instant he was stunned, Xiaohua flung his hand, and 6 fireball talismans were scattered on top of Xiang Yang's head. The 6 fireball talismans were scattered under Xiang Yang's feet. The position of these 6 fireball talismans was roughly the same as the position of the array disk of the heavenly fire array. Moreover, these 12 fireball talismans were extremely fast under the control of the Buddhist consciousness. Xiang Yang was stunned and clapped his hands. Just as he held a small hammer in his hand, the 12 fireball talismans exploded on his upper and lower body at the same time. Rumble. The 2 waves of air pressed towards Xiang Yang in tacit understanding. Ouch! Xiang Yang felt a huge magic power fluctuation, and the defensive spell around his body flashed brilliantly, as if it was about to be annihilated. Xiang Yang didn't have time to activate the magic tool in his hand. He formed a seal in his hand, urged his magic power, and cast the seal on his body. Just as Xiang Yang urged his magic power, Xiaohua raised his hand again, and the same 12 fireball talismans were scattered in the same position. Xiang Yang's defensive spell was cast, and his 12 fireball talismans were also cast and exploded. The same rumble, the same heat wave, and the same magic power fluctuation rushed towards Xiang Yang. Xiang Yang was helpless and urged his magic power to protect himself. But just as he finished casting the spell, Xiaohua's 12 fireball talismans were also cast. Xiang Yang almost wanted to laugh bitterly. Is there anyone who fights like this? This happens several times. Xiang Yang wanted to use up all of Xiaohua's fireball talismans, but his heart was distressed for these fireball talismans. After thinking for a moment, he no longer used all of his magic power on the spell. He urged his flying technique while maintaining his defense. However, the fireball talisman's airwaves were different from what he imagined. It almost blocked all the directions he could fly in. He could only use his magic power to forcibly break through the airwaves. Forget it. Xiang Yang's heart was somewhat sour. He no longer urged his magic power to defend his body. He wanted to risk a slight injury to escape from the siege of the fireball talismans. Xiang Yang was very clear that as long as he urged the magic tool in his hand, he would definitely be able to reverse the situation. Sure enough, as Xiang Yang was about to rush out of the siege of the fireball talismans, the defensive brilliance of his body was torn apart by the explosion of the fireball. At the same time, an already weak magic power fluctuation rushed to Xiang Yang's chest. Xiang Yang didn't pay attention to this fluctuation. He urged his magic power to urge the hammer, and a circle of blue lightning appeared from the middle of the hammer. It followed the hammer down and quickly reached the tip. Hee, junior brother, eat my hammer. Xiang Yang laughed, and casually smashed outwards. His divine sense had been locked onto Xiaohua. He firmly believed that even if Xiaohua knew the hibernating thunder escape, this lightning would definitely hit Xiaohua's side. However, at the same time he waved his magic tool, a portion of the magic power fluctuation that attacked his chest still rushed over, while a portion seemed to slightly stagnate. It was this stagnant magic power fluctuation that made him raise his guard. He left a trace of divine sense to sweep over, and Xiang Yang immediately turned pale with fright. A jet-black iron needle had stopped right in front of his chest. Ah! At this time, how could Xiang Yang still care about using his magic tool to attack Xiaohua? He hurriedly changed the direction of his magic tool and attacked the black iron needle before the magic tool was released. Zalala, the lightning met the black iron needle with extreme speed. That black iron needle suddenly jumped, and like a jumping black fish, it nimbly flew into the distant sky. Haha, eldest senior brother, look at my trump card. Taking advantage of Xiang Yang's busy dealing with the fireball talismans, Xiaohua had already flown away from Xiang Yang. He clapped his hand, and that black dust was held in his hand. He waved his hand, and an earthen yellow brilliance was released from the black dust. It was like a concrete earth pillar, and like a huge boulder, it smashed towards Xiang Yang. Seeing this, Xiang Yang smiled and said, "Come at me." Then his body flew up, and the magic tool in his hand continuously waved. Every time he waved it, a bolt of lightning would flash out and attack the brilliance above his head. Zalala, the countless lightning bolts hit the black dust brilliance, and it was like pouring boiling water on top of snow. The countless particles within that earthen yellow brilliance were melted by the lightning. The lightning bolts followed the earthen yellow light pillar and quickly chased after Xiaohua. Damn it, the difference is really too great. When Xiaohua saw the situation, he knew that he couldn't compete with his eldest senior brother in terms of magic tools. He clapped his hand, and the black dust brilliance was immediately withdrawn. His hand shook, and that black dust brilliance was absorbed into the space. After losing the black dust brilliance, the lightning bolts didn't disappear, and still attacked Xiaohua. Xiaohua naturally didn't dare to stay in the air. His body flew up, and he escaped far away. Xiang Yang finally turned the situation around. He smiled, and just as he was about to wave his magic tool again, in his divine sense, the black iron needle that had just flown away flew back again. This time, Xiang Yang wasn't afraid. He separated a trace of his divine sense and wrapped it around the black iron needle, as if he wanted to forcefully snatch the black iron needle. Ouch! Xiaohua was shocked. He didn't think that Xiang Yang would have this kind of skill. He quickly controlled the black iron needle to quickly retreat. This black iron needle was sacrificed by Xiaohua using a secret technique. Although Xiang Yang's divine sense was powerful, he still couldn't control the black iron needle very well. Xiaohua nimbly dodged it, and it flew far away again. Seeing the black iron needle fly away, Xiang Yang didn't chase after it. He waved the magic tool in his hand again, and a bolt of lightning appeared, attacking Xiaohua. Xiaohua knew that the defensive yellow talisman on his body was useless, so he naturally couldn't let the lightning strike him. He could only escape far away before the lightning struck. Fortunately, Xiaohua's flying technique was very fast, and he always escaped before Xiang Yang's lightning struck him. Looking at Xiang Yang again, although he took the initiative, his speed was still much slower than Xiaohua's. He couldn't catch up, and his magic tool couldn't hit Xiaohua. The two of them were in a deadlock like this for a while. Soon after, Xiang Yang reduced the number and strength of activating his magic tool. His other hand began to form an extremely complicated seal. As the seal in Xiang Yang's hand gradually formed, traces of heaven and earth's spiritual energy condensed in his hand. When the seal was formed, Xiang Yang used his divine sense to lock onto Xiaohua. He waved the seal, and under the control of his divine sense, it directly hit Xiaohua's body. Although Xiaohua's flying speed was very fast, in the end, it couldn't be faster than divine sense. Under the control of divine sense, the seal actually managed to catch up to Xiaohua. How could Xiaohua want to dodge this seal? He could only use the hibernating thunder escape to escape far away. But contrary to Xiang Yang's expectations, the moment the seal hit Xiaohua, Xiaohua's figure actually flashed. There was no trace of magic power fluctuation at all, and then, as fast as lightning, he pounced on Xiang Yang's chest. Not good, Xiaohua wants to use fireball talismans again. This was Xiang Yang's first thought. He naturally wasn't willing to let Xiaohua get close to him. Thus, on one hand, he controlled the seal, on the other, he urged his magic tool, and on the other, he used his flying technique, wanting to increase the distance between him and Xiaohua. Unfortunately, Xiaohua's figure was nimble. Every time it was impossible to dodge the lightning and seal, he had already closed in on Xiang Yang in an instant. Sure enough, seeing that the distance was right, Xiaohua shook his hand, and another 12 fireball talismans appeared. However, at this time, Xiang Yang had a magic tool in his hand. Before the fireball talismans could explode, they were destroyed by his magic tool. There were simply not many that exploded. However, just as Xiang Yang was distracted, Xiaohua's flying speed suddenly increased again. Xiang Yang only saw a flash in front of him, and Xiaohua had already flown in front of him. He saw Xiaohua raise his hand, as if he wanted to take something out, but after hesitating for a moment, he was still empty-handed in the end. And at this time, Xiang Yang waved his hand in a flurry, and a great confinement technique that didn't use much magic power was cast by him. It precisely hit Xiaohua's body. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.